on. Hello.
Happy New Year!
Oh, that's loud. That's loud.
Oh, there you go.
That's okay.
Sorry, I normally wouldn't be that loud. I said I was using my my deep, sensuous voice.
Yeah, for reasons I don't really understand, it's really loud. Keep talking, Dan.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope you're all doing awesome. And hope you all had a great, restful break. I know that, I had a break. I don't know if I'd call it restful, but I definitely had a break. And Rosie is growing up for Mick. And he's been a busy boy.
Good. I think we're on.
All good?
I think so. It's always hard to tell. Can you let us know if we are on air, please?
Yes, we do appear to be on air.
Great. Can you hear us okay? Is the audio balance acceptable? They've changed YouTube Studio, Dan, so instead of saying videos, it now says content.
Good Lord. Oh, look, my Christmas present turned up. Check it out.
Hey!
Tom Bukovac, homeschooler. Ah, yeah. Uncle Larry.
Nice.
Yeah. There we go. Tom's drawings. Audio is good. Cheers, Tom.
Happy days.
Fabulous. All happening. There we go.
Fabulous. So yeah, welcome. I've got that usual thing where I can't see the video or anything. Why is it so difficult? It's designed by PC people, Dan. That's why I can't work it.
Do you remember those Mac versus PC ads? I think they were back from the 90s or 2000s, early 2000s.
Right.
They were hilarious.
Yeah, I think I do remember them, actually.
They were very non-PC, if you get my drift. And
quite interesting in that that probably informed a lot of the debate thereafter.
Yeah. It was really clever marketing.
Yeah.
But they were. I mean, you can find them on YouTube. They're really fun.
It is mad how fast stuff ages, isn't it? In terms of sort of acceptability of modern. What we would...
Yeah, there is no way they would make those ads today.
Yeah. Interestados, as they say in Guatemala.
as I say, where?
In Guatemala.
I say it's okay, great. Very good.
Right. What can I see? That's the next question. Not much. No. Literally not much. Oh, maybe I can see it all. Right, welcome. Sorry, I'm going to take my shirt off. This is not to get anyone aroused. It's because I'm a little bit warm.
Okay. Just wondering if I should give you some shirt off music.
No?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a definite no.
It's actually, bizarrely enough, even though it's no degrees outside, 0 degrees in the UK at the moment, where we are. Approximately, what's that, like 86 degrees Fahrenheit?
The thing is, I just don't understand why it ever needs to be this cold. There is no practical reason. I told Catherine I went for a walk today with the dog, and I'm outside, and there's just no point it ever being this cold.
You and I greatly differ, you see, Daniel, because I really like the cold.
Right.
I went out on a frosty morning. It was the perfect hoarfrost the other morning, where it was freezing. It was probably about -4, -3.
Right.
Me and the dog, and it was just glorious. It was so beautiful.
So if you get up and it's a beautiful, clear day, and you've got frost on the ground, and and you're in a beautiful part of the world like you are, then absolutely, I can see that being fantastic. When you live in a less beautiful part of the world where I live...
What are you saying?
and you get outside and it's grey and absolutely freezing, there is no point to it. There is zero joy in that situation. None at all. Yeah, 30 seconds outside, my outies turned into an innie. Everything's everything's locked up. It's ridiculous.
Anyone who actually lives somewhere where it is properly cold will probably be laughing.
I know. We have this conversation with Joey
uproariously at this point.
Yeah.
So, to wit, Derby, UK, probably a bit colder than Froome. Hello to Sam Horton. Bris Vegas, says Glenn B to you.
Bris Vegas.
That's either Brisbane or it's Bristol.
Yeah, it's Brisbane.
So it is, because it's 3 a.m. Oregon City, says Dave Late. Hi, Dave. BV Ninja is moderating for us today, as always. BV, thank you so much. A happy
Legend
New Year
BV.
to you, sir. John Channing, hi, John. Steve Richardson, happy New Year. Joe Wright Music, happy New Year, everybody. Really great that everyone's here today. Thank you indeed for joining us. So how was it, Dan?
By it, do you mean the break?
I mean the festive period.
Yeah, it was good. I still had a lot going on.
Yeah.
So my brain hasn't really switched off.
Yeah.
But you know, it was good. You know, weird being sort of locked inside. We did manage to see my wife's mum. But yeah, it's just kind of a bit, just really glad last year's over and done with, to be honest. That was the best thing. At midnight on New Year's Eve, myself and my wife and the kids all ran outside and shouted Jumanji at the top of our voices. And that was the best part of the whole festive season for us. How about you?
Yeah, all right. Much the same. Yeah, much the same, actually. Just
Right.
we had a very nice time at home. That was great. Any sort of tranquility and enjoyment that we would have had has been replaced with a puppy, as you know. So that's been
I love her. She's awesome.
a bit testing. She is awesome. She's she, as I said to you a couple of times, she has been landed with us for a purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to work out what that purpose is. That's as philosophical as I can be about it.
Yeah, totally.
She's fantastic, but as anyone who's owned a puppy will know, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine and I have this very blissful life where, apart from working 12 hours a day, probably 6 days a week, the rest of our lives, we do whatever we want, whenever we want. We have no responsibilities, we have no ties, we have nothing to worry about. And so when you add in something that requires constant care to that, it is quite a culture shock.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. However,
I remember when, so funny, when before we had Liv, the conversation was always, well, she's just going to have to fit in with what we're doing. You know, she's, not going to make a difference to our lives. And then from the first minute, it's like, it's all over. You're no longer the priority, And the reason I bring that up is when we had Ziggy, like it was Ziggy's birthday yesterday. He's 2 years old now.
Ziggy is Dan's dog.
And when we brought Ziggy home, all of those feelings came back because you've got to be constantly on it the whole time, really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting culture shock. I've never had to care for anything in my life, so not even myself, so it's just a bit of a weird one. But lest we complain, right, because Dan and I are both in very privileged and lucky positions to be still working.
Yeah.
To have relative freedom to do what we want, and a shout out to any of you who are locked down in less fortuitous circumstances, because it is this one feels harder than last year, I've got to say.
Oh man.
Just because through the summer we all felt like we were coming out of it. It all felt like it was going to get better. There was a lot of hope going into the festive period for those of you who celebrate it, and then it's like, okay. And our Prime Minister, if you're watching this in the UK, our Prime Minister is about to go on TV at 8 p.m. tonight and probably give us some bad news. So we'll see. And needless to say, our thoughts are with everyone who's had a hard time during this, not least who's lost somebody during this, because the UK deaths at the moment are pretty scary. So
Yeah.
we mustn't complain, and we must
No.
get on with the show, because the only way you can move is forwards, right? That's
Exactly.
literally the only direction you can go in. So let's do that.
Indeed.
Right, on to the cues for this week then.
So, Carol Kipping has just said, OMG, I have a new puppy and I am so tired.
Yeah.
Yes, Carol. Yes.
Yeah. I always thought that I got up early most mornings. I always thought that I did. You know, people say, what time do you get up? I say, I don't know, somewhere between 6:30 and 7. What a load of rubbish that is. I probably do it 2 or 3 days a week, but now I do it 7 days a week. Actually, to be fair, she's going till about 7:30 now, which is great. But
Brilliant.
yeah, well, Carol, commiserations and felicitations, because it is it's a bit of a bipolar experience, isn't it, having a puppy, I think.
Indeed.
Right.
Right.
Gordon
Aston Villa says, happy 2021 from the piney woods of southeast Texas. Mate, I cannot wait to get back to the States.
Yeah. Will be pretty cool.
Be great.
Cool. Well,
and
hopefully.
AM says, Happy New Year, fellas. Loved the Midi show. I just ordered a G3 Atom.
Wow.
Here's to the chance of some live music at some point in 2021. Cheers, Al. Thank you, Al. That's awesome, mate. Yes, and I think we're all desperately looking forward to some live music, getting to playing again.
Itching for it. Absolutely itching for it. To watch and to play. Probably more to play. But,
yeah, and thank you for that, the G3 Al. That's really cool, mate. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
I want to say hello to Gordon Rankin, who's with us today. Gordon,
yes!
Gordon has fingers in many pies. He has a company called Wavelength Audio and develops lots of things, and is a fan of the show. And interestingly enough, despite all the really incredible techie things that he does and amazing products that he's been involved in developing, he said to us that his interest in pedals was sparked by watching that pedal show. So he's built a couple of boosters which he's sent. But I want to mention a couple of things. Dan, have you ever heard of this? Dragonfly Cobalt.
No. So
right?
It's a Swedish metal band.
Right. I'll be as fast as I can. It's a USB stick, right? That sticks in your USB port, bypasses the DAC in your computer or mobile device, and essentially gives you a really decent quality DAC in a USB pen, which you can then plug your headphones into or send it out to some other source. And I thought, what a load of marketing cobblers this is. Plugged it in, listened, and I was like, oh my God, because you know how much I moan about how rubbish streamed MP3s sound, because I still listen to CDs and vinyl, right? So through a decent hi-fi, and it's literally a different record than listening to a streamed MP3. A significant improvement, which I didn't really believe. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I've just got sort of Gordon sent this and I feel happy about it bias going on. I Googled it. It's won loads of awards.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway, so Gordon, thank you for sending that.
That's amazing, Gordon.
This I cannot wait to try. The QI jack. Have you seen this? You've got one.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Dan and I live apart, so Gordon, he hasn't seen the package yet. Dan and I live apart. Sounds like we were married once. It's a replacement jack for your guitar or whatever you want to put it in. So it would sit in your telly hole, or it would sit in your Strat hole. And it's got these oval contacts which contact in two parts of the ring and the tip.
Wow.
Of the sleeve and the tip.
Oh, I like that.
The claim is they sound really good, which, with respect, Gordon, we will wait to see, because I'm always dubious about that stuff. But the reliability bit, from a scratchy jack point of view, seems amazing. So it sounds like I've just given Gordon a massive plug there, and the product's a massive plug. It's what I like is when you get stuff that you go, oh wow, what really? What is that? That's interesting. So we'll see. I'm going to fit that to the old Strat. It's called a not the old Strat, to Blue. It's called an Analysis Plus QI jack.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that. Anyway, right. I just wanted to say thank you to Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon.
The incredible generosity, and sent a bag of toys for the dog and all kinds of things. So,
legend.
Thank you so much. Oh, and some capacitors.
Fabulous.
Right. Shall we get on to the old cues then, Daniel?
Yep. Eric K says, Happy New Year, fellas. Thoughts on running a stereo pedal after the outputs of the G3 before the amps, such as a Strymon Deco, Flint or Blue Sky? There's no problem in doing that. The only problem that you might run into is getting earth loops from, because you are joining the earth at the inputs of the amplifiers by doing that. One of the reasons that we like the outputs of to be the last thing before the amps is because the second output is isolated. However, it is some amps react to that worse than others. So try it; it might work in your setup.
Yeah, I tried that when I first got my Atom, and I was actually recording the audio for the demo, for Dan's demo video, for the track that you can hear in it. And because I didn't really have time to plug it all in properly, so I just ran it afterwards. I think I had all the other loops full up maybe, so as is in your case, if you don't have enough loops and you want to put it on, I just got the world's worst earth loop problem. To wit, I had to add a humdinger to one of the outputs of the reverb pedal that was at the end of the chain. So you have to correct the noise again outside of G3. As Dan just said, if you have it all in, it solves all that problem. Yeah.
And Plexico says, Happy New Gear. Midi is so 2021. Yeah, indeed it is. There's Midi 2.0 coming out, which is going to be really interesting.
You know what? I would draw an analogy with, I don't know, Bluetooth or with podcasts, where this technology hits and nobody really knows what it's for.
Yeah.
Or at least the people, the specific application that it's for, the people really know. So I don't know whether it's Sibelius scoring music or keyboard stuff, so Matey in his 80s Top of the Pops band can trigger the sample for the drummer. Whatever it is, those people have always understood it. But it's not until it gets put in a user interface that makes sense to the masses does it really happen. So, podcasts were nothing, were they, really? No one was listening to podcasts. Right. And then it became easier. The Apple devices made it easier. Other devices made it easier. The distribution network became easier. Podcasts went through the roof. Same with Bluetooth, The idea of using Bluetooth for something when it first came out was a bit like, what am I going to use this for? Everyone was skeptical about Bluetooth headphones, but didn't work properly, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden now, imagine your life without Bluetooth.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time
it's so interesting because what you made a comment, and it sort of stuck with me a couple of months ago when we were looking at doing the starting of the rack show, and we had everything set up, and you said, rack gear never sounded this good.
Yeah, and
it's so funny because I went from my first professional touring rig was an all rack thing. That's how I got into this, because I found pedals and they sounded so much better, but I needed that rack accessibility. I needed to be able to program things. And it feels in a way that we've almost come full circle, and I can see something like, if you imagine the CXM as a rack.
Yeah.
That's, and with that level of quality of audio, and then you can see that sort of stuff coming back in fashion.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I went back and had listened to some of the, like I remember Carlos Alomar when he was touring with David Bowie, the Spiders from Mars tour. No. Anyway.
Now, didn't Carlos Alomar play the guitar solo on Dancing on the Ceiling by Lionel Richie? Somebody Google that, please. It's such a fantastic...
Carlos Alomar or Steve Lukather.
Everyone thinks it was Lukather, and I think it was Carlos Alomar.
Steve Lukather did Running with the Night.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's such a great guitar solo, Dancing on the Ceiling. You know, that massive pop hit that was number one.
Yeah.
Killer guitar solo.
And so you go back and have a listen to, and you know, of course, he had the best of the best going, and his rig was just out of control, and I do think in some ways that with the MIDI and switching and the quality of stuff that's coming out now, it won't surprise me to see a resurgence in some really high-end rack gear.
Yeah, because the assumption is, or at least the logical conclusion is, that because the tech's got better and the Shark processors have got better and all
Mate, it's exactly
the nano.
Exactly, and again, that's what that started me on everything, because when I started this journey way back when, I had the state of the art. And there is that assumption that if you have the state of the art, it must sound the best.
Yes, but that endless miniaturization of things means that you can get it all in devices smaller, and then you realise,
yes, sir.
Oh man, maybe those tone caps, maybe those coupling caps were actually doing something. Maybe all this other stuff that was in there was actually contributing to some form of sound here, and we need to think about it again. And that's the.
And for anyone just joining us, that's what we call a tangent.
Yes, it is.
You'll see a few of those as in a lot of the videos.
We are supposed to be answering questions. Hang on, we need to rewind a bit, mate, because we've missed the load at the beginning.
I've gone back as far as I can, so I'll let you go right back to the beginning.
I'll pick us up. Naganud, who was first in today, says, "Have you tried a 2-Rock Studio Signature? I haven't, but their relative scarcity and high demand is such I need to order without testing, and I'm just curious about your thoughts." The only place I played one, so for anyone who doesn't know, 2-Rock Classic Reverb Signature is this amplifier. It is, for all intents and purposes, their kind of...
Q Choir of Angels.
Their everything amp. The sort of sum total of 2-Rock's learning over the years, and single channel, does most things pretty well. Doesn't do like high gain, it's not that, but anyway. The Studio Signature is a smaller version, more cost effective, although not massively more cost effective, but certainly not as expensive as the big one, with a load of features, blah blah blah. So I've played one at NAMM and thought it sounded amazing. Every single 2-Rock amp I have ever played has sounded amazing. It would be really good to try one in anger. I have no reason to believe whatsoever that it won't be utterly stellar.
Yeah.
We should get one and play it.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, their popularity speaks volumes, I would say.
Yeah,
so good luck with that. Funnily enough, Jake Loosemore sent me an email over Christmas wishing us a happy New Year and all that, and he's just ordered his traditional clean. He's been gassing for a 2-Rock for a long time, and he's just ordered one. So Jake, if you're with us,
nice.
A, congratulations. B, Happy New Year. C, get us some more music, please. That stuff you were doing before is pretty swell. Richard Chester. Hello, Richard. Happy New Year, TPS.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Indeed. He says, great video on MIDI. With G2, can I change which program change messages are sent in a bank? E.g., bank 1 preset 1 sending PCM 127, or do I need the G3 for that?
You need G3 for that. They're set in G2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You will understand what Dan has just said. It's fair to say that the MIDI in G3 is a step change.
It's a whole other world. Yeah. The MIDI in G2 is pretty simple, but it does work for a lot of people, but what we want to do is really something special with G3, and so I think it's we're really pushing the boat out with the MIDI capabilities that, and as people have seen in the video.
It's so funny. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn when I say that Dan. Whenever Dan releases a new product, and bearing in mind when did G2 come out? 13.
Yeah.
So it's been 7 years since Dan's kind of premium product has been updated. He gets very worried about people being unhappy that he's brought out a new product that kind of, is an update on the old one. Because, some customers get a bit annoyed by that. All I would say is, look at the flipping iPhone.
Yeah.
Oh, the Mac. I've got, how many Macs am I looking at here? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking at 4 Macs, and out there are probably 3 more. That one over there, which does our main audio every week in, week out, is a 2011 iMac. It's about to die. It won't be functional for much longer at all.
Right.
Apart from to send and receive emails and maybe do some of that if the screen lasts. That was, I don't know what Simon paid. We bought it off Simon secondhand. He probably paid.
Did we? Okay.
He probably paid $3,000 for that.
Yeah.
Back in the thing. This laptop, because it's all tricked out with everything, nearly £4,000.
Oh man.
In 4 years, it won't handle the video that I'm asking it to do.
Yeah.
Total obsolescence of product. I guarantee you plug G2 in 10 years' time, it will still sound fantastic and it will still do the things you need it to do. But it might not have every single MIDI functionality capability.
Sure.
So anyway, sorry, too many tangents. We haven't done this for ages, Dan. I just want to talk. No. I want to be with humans.
Yes. Yeah. No, I've missed it. I've missed so funny being isolated and not doing this. I was really looking forward to today. Hopefully we can get back to filming soon.
Me too. Well, we are. Dan and I and Simon and I have checked all the government guidance, and we think we can film because it's work. It's essential work. You know, can't earn money any other way. Or at least Simon can't. And we can socially distance and film and do everything that we need to do here, the 3 of us. There'll only be the 3 of us. Unless dear old Boris announces a national lockdown tonight, in which case we're going to have to be a bit more creative.
Okay.
But there we are. Hopefully that won't happen. Right, come on, questions. Albus Band. Aaron, hey mate, how are you? He says, it's all happening. Those are the words I said when the clock struck midnight. Hope you had a wonderful holiday and are all well. And he sends his love.
Thank you, buddy.
Right back to you. Astro Villa. Happy 2021. Oh, we've had that one from the Southeast Texas. Yes. Okay, so we're back to where we were. Just refresh this.
Marco Barossi. Hey, Marco. He says, hey, lads, in your dry wig setups, don't you get phase issues with pedals like DC2 or the Mini vent on the wet side since they are digital? Wouldn't that create some amount of latency? It's not latency as opposed to a phase shift. It's not so. If you get a pedal that is, hang on, sorry. It's DC2. The DC2 isn't digital. DC2's got an analog drive-through. The Mini vent, I think they've both got, they've both got an analog drive-through. They're digital pedals, but the effect is digital, and it's mixed in on top of an analog signal. And that's the most important thing. So when Mick and I bang on about having an analog drive-through, what we mean is that analog signal never changes, as in there's no digital latency there. The digital effect, and because it's a time-based effect, is then mixed on top of that analog signal. But when you see it on the scope, it matches up perfectly with your direct signal. Now, when you're doing a parallel thing and you split them, sometimes, even though the signal can be analog, it can be 180 degrees out of phase. That direct signal can be out of phase. And when you go and kick that in on a wet, dry signal, it will flip the phase of one side. So you've got 2 options there. If it's in a looper, you need to put another circuit in that loop with that pedal that flips the phase back and puts it back in phase. Or it's, with G3 and Atom, you can program the phase if you're doing things like that. But there's really the only 2 options is to, if you've got it in a loop, flip the phase. You put something else in that loop that flips the phase, that when you keep that loop in, it comes in phase. Or, get something that's got clever phase programming ability. Yes.
There is what's interesting about running any phase related effect in a wet dry scenario is sometimes you're not quite sure if it's in or out of phase. So the phasing effect of the effect itself can make it sound like it's out of phase, because
totally
at times it will be.
Yeah, and like if you look at something like a phaser, it is specifically moving the frequencies around and changing the phase, and that will change. That will change the relationship with the other dry amplifier. It's really interesting. If you have a listen to the in the video when we kicked on the harmonious monk, and you hear the difference when it's going to both amplifiers and when it's only going to one amplifier.
It's massive.
And it's amazing. But what you feel when it's only going to one amplifier is that you feel the movement between the two amplifiers, and it's even though it's only going to one, you're not just hearing this straight thing. You're hearing this movement between the two.
Yeah. Sometimes it can sound almost as if like the sound has dropped out a bit if you kick on a very phasey thing, because what's happening is sometimes the phase is additive and sometimes it's subtractive. So
totally,
one of the issues you can often get, especially I find this with vibes actually. Dan and I are going to do, if we do get to film tomorrow, we're going to film harmonic tremolo or vibe. What are they? What's the difference? And what do you need to know? We're going to do that one. Anyway, if you get coupling in the bass frequency, that's when they can get really boomy and really uncontrollable. That's why we put the 3-position EQ in the, or the 3-pot EQ in the Harmonious Monk, for that very reason. Chris Prescott Guitar, who has just started doing YouTube videos by all accounts. So Chris Prescott Guitar, please check out his YouTube channel. He says, in his latest video, he's asking Boss CE2 Wazzer and MXR Phase 95 together. So you've got a phaser and a chorus. Or Jam Pedals Ripley Fall. What would you do? What would you do, Dan?
I really like the 95. Is he using a CE2 or a DC2, did you say?
CE2 Wazzer.
CE2 Wazzer, okay. I think the way that the circuits are designed within the Ripley Fall, they work so incredibly well together. And you still have the autonomy, but to switch them on and off. The only difference that you've got in having them separately is that you can change the position.
Yeah, change the order.
But I think the Ripley Fall is one of my favourite modulation effects, so I've got to go Ripley Fall.
Yeah, until the Harmonious Monk came out, it is my favourite modulation pedal, I would say.
But I will say the Phase 95, and I have been using the CE2 Wazzer, it's fantastic. I think the Phase 95 is fantastic. I think they've done a really great job with that, marrying the 45 and the 90 together. And they've done a really great job with that. Oh God, what's his name? We had Funky Guy.
Mark Materi.
Yes, he came in. He had a Phase 95 on his board. And, yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, good luck with that, Chris, whatever you choose. And however the video turns out. Hopefully you're having lots of fun making videos for YouTube. Hard, isn't it? Zoot Allures says, this is one of those what order shall I put my pedals in questions, Dan. Zoot Allure says, Happy New Year, D&M. I'm running wet dry into an AC15 and a Marshall Origin 20.
Nice.
My gain pedals are a D&M drive, thank you, a Keeley Aria, Prince of Tone, and a Ryra clone. What order should we put them in?
It all depends on the job that the Prince of Tone and the clone is doing.
Yeah.
So if you're using one as a boost or an overdrive, they both do a great job as a boost. I really love the Prince of Tone as a boost.
Yeah. The other video we're going to film tomorrow is King of Tone versus 2 Prince of Tones.
Yes. So, yeah, it all depends on the job that they're doing. So what I would say is gain structure. If you start with the highest gain pedal and then stack the lower gain pedals after that in order of amount of gain used, you'll find them easier to stack that way. All I would say is I like at the very front as well, I like having a booster as well to increase the amount of gain.
Yeah.
So you've got one, if you're using a booster at the end, it'll boost volume for solos, but if you use it at the front, it'll boost and shape the gain better.
Quick word on the Aria. So I believe the Aria is a compressor and an overdrive in one pedal, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, which sounds awesome.
Quick word on that. If you want the overt compression sound, a la, country picking, maybe some funk style playing. I mean, it's country. That overt compression sound is over all kinds of music, but those are the obvious ones to pick out. Put it nearer the front of the chain. If you want to use the compressor more as a kind of bloom for your overdrives, so you retain the attack at the front of the note, depending on whether it does have a blend, doesn't it, the Aria?
It does.
Yeah.
I believe it does.
But give you sort of some additional sustain afterwards. So a more subtle type of compression you might think of more like studio compression, or indeed an amp that's really flat out. Put the compressor further back in the chain.
Yeah.
I also believe you can switch the audio in the Aria, can't you?
Yeah. Same way as you can do the D&M drive. Same switching thing.
Yeah, you can experiment with that. So, but yeah, good luck. Personally, clone, always at the end for me because it's got an always on buffer. I don't want to hear that into my D&M drive.
It's the perfect shape for boosting. It really is.
It's an awesome solo booster pedal. That's what I use it for. And if you're not using it as a solo booster and you're just using it as your clean, I want to be John Mayer today booster, it works in that position as well because you've got nothing else on.
Today, Michael, I'm going to be John Mayer.
Luke Parsons says, and thank you, Luke. He says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Luke. I'm just getting into guitar as I can't get to my drums at the moment. Any suggestions for a low wattage home amp for practice and recording? I want a good pedal platform. Should it be tubes, solid state or digital?
We have to have a look at this. If you're just getting into guitar, it's really tricky because there are some really great, for example, my Yamaha THR-10 is wonderful for plugging into at home. And it's got a line out and you can plug it into your computer and it sounds great. It depends on, I've got an isolation cab next door and I'm, run the matchless and the hook and amps into that when I'm recording and it got a ribbon mic on. So I'm way down that rabbit hole for home recording. But if what you need is an amplifier that does everything, so it allows you to play quietly at home and allows you to plug into into your computer and also works as a pedal platform, I think there are some digital options that are certainly worth looking at.
Boss Katana 50.
Boss Katana 50 is a great example. And the great thing about the digital options is they sound the same at low volumes and as high volumes, as they do at high volumes. Now, what you don't get is that volume feel, but the way they're designed, the speaker's like a PA speaker, and it's just wide open, full response?
Full range flat response. Some of them are like that, some of them aren't like that, but yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking,
certainly in the THR.
Exactly. So you can turn them down, and they basically will sound the same. You're not lowering the voltage going to tubes, or you're not reducing the amount of signal going into the power section. That sort of stuff that valve amplifiers that we use and love rely on to sound awesome. So there will never be, or I've never heard a guitar sound that sounds better than a cranked valve amplifier with a lovely ribbon mic straight on it. That for me is the pinnacle, and everything else is sort of trying to get there, but it doesn't mean that you can't sound fantastic at home.
It's context and environment as well, isn't it? I always leap to kind of food and motoring analogies whenever a question like this comes up. Like, how deep in the blues do you want to go? So if you're aspiring to be a chef and, you know, you're into your fine dining, and your question is, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Then, you know, a microwave curry from Sainsbury isn't going to really do it for you. Because what do you need to enjoy your fine dining experience? You need a really nice environment. You need really nice table setting. You need everything else. All that stuff makes that food taste better. Plus, you need a really great chef with the best quality ingredients possible. And you're going to walk out of there much less wealthy than you walked in there.
Yes.
And motoring, I would say the same thing. You know, what do you want to do? Do you want to go fast? Well, there's a Porsche 911 RS if you want that. That'll take.
Do you want to get from A to B?
That'll take you, you know, and if you get the new electric BMW M8, which whatever it is, or whatever that new the new electric Ferrari, that'll give you 8 minutes driving, but 1,000 horsepower.
Oh man!
You know, if you want that, then it's not even for sale. If you step back from that, I don't know what the latest Ferrari is, but it's like 300,000 or 400,000 probably, isn't it? I don't know. So if you want that, if you want to go fast, it's there. You can go fast, but I can't fit me shopping in it because the boot's not very big. I certainly can't get the dog in it. It's really uncomfortable to drive over speed bumps. I don't want that. I just want a normal car that people can drive into in Sainsbury's car park, and I don't get all worried about it, and that the dog can do a wee in because she's excited. You know, it's about. Sorry, this analogy has gone on way too long, but it's just about context. Come back to the old Dragonfly DAC. To get rid of the DAC in your computer, what am I then hearing? My home cinema amp's not very good.
Yeah, right.
My home cinema speakers are a bit crap sounding. And it's like, if you're going to use premium stuff, unfortunately, it needs to be paired with premium stuff. So you cycle back from all of that and go, do you know what? I just want to have fun. Buy a Boss Katana 50.
Totally.
Buy a Boss Katana 50 or a THR 10C.
Yep. You got to use whatever's going to get you playing guitar.
Yep.
That's the most important thing.
But if you're like, no, actually, I want to be John Mayer, and I'm going to spend 8 hours a day for the next 25 years doing this.
Yep.
Don't buy a THR 10C. Go out and save up, buy a 2 Rock Studio Signature and a bunch of insanely expensive high-end analog gear. Yeah.
And start to experience what that connectivity is like.
Yeah. And then the internet caught on fire. Good luck, Luke. Thank you for your work as a drummer. There aren't enough of you, and we miss you. Words, we just can't say how much we miss you.
Indeed.
Simon Goodship says, "Hey fellas, love you both and really missed you." We love you too, Simon, and thanks for being with us. He says, "I built my monster board, all running through a Quartermaster 10. I've got all the lights on, but the signal's not getting through. Is there a fast or smart way to problem solve that saves me from snorting Xanax?"
Yes. So, process of elimination. The one really good thing with loop switches is it does make the process of elimination, troubleshooting, a lot easier. So, if turn all the lights off on the Quartermaster, plug your guitar at the input and the output into your amplifier. If you've got no sound, well then you've got two things to check out. You've got the guitar, the lead going input, and then the lead going to the output. And once you've sorted that out, turn the loops on one at a time. Like 99.9% of any problem you're going to have with gear is going to be cables, patch cables, guitar cables.
It's always a cable.
Always a cable. It's certainly a fair bet.
So you just need to find out which one. One of the great things about the loop switcher is that you can isolate each thing.
Exactly.
So you can very quickly get to the point where the problem is.
Yep.
But it's always a cable.
Always a cable. It's always a cable.
Especially if you're me and you make your own patch cables, it's always a cable.
Brian Garcia says, "Glad to have you back. I'm struggling with my middleman when I play in headphones. When I play in headphones, my flow is fantastic. But when I turn up my amps, I get self-conscious of anyone hearing me and what they hear, and it destroys my flow. Any advice?" This is so interesting.
Brian, you are just so not alone with that.
Yeah. Totally. Because That's everything, isn't it? That's where the middleman lives. It lives in your ego, and
the fear of being disliked.
Yeah.
And your conscious mind, or at least your unconscious mind, controlling who you are and what you do, whereas you've just got to let that go and be cool with it. I wish I could supplant 5 years of reading and counselling and into your head. But
by the way, Brian, when I say ego, I don't mean to imply that you're being egotistical. What I mean is that ego, that it's that sense of self that we all have, and the vision, how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you're playing in headphones, you don't have to worry about what anyone else is hearing. You're just there and having fun. But when everyone else can hear it, then you become self-conscious of that. And, it's because you're worried about what people are going to think and how, and that affects the way that you see yourself. It's really interesting. And actually getting your head around that. It's the same, and this spills into every area of music. I have the same thing.
Every area of life.
Every area of life. But it's like red light fever. I can play some stuff, when I'm recording, I'm like, yeah, that's the part, I've got it nailed. And I'll go to record, and I'm become so self-conscious at that moment. And it is a skill, you look at Tom, Uncle Larry, and how he approaches studio work. And, you'd look at his face and he is so invested in every note.
Yeah, yeah.
And is just in the moment. He's so totally in the moment and in the music.
There's a weird sort of crossover there, isn't there? Because I'm going to be momentarily disparaging about Yoko Ono. If you've ever heard Yoko Ono sing, it's a very much love it or hate it thing, right? Dan, have you heard Yoko sing?
I've heard Yoko make noises from her face.
It's very much love it or hate it. Big respect to Yoko Ono and the artist that she is.
There's no doubt she's an artist.
Yeah,
no doubt she's an artist.
Yoko just doesn't care what anyone thinks, does she? She doesn't care because she's expressing her artistry, and that's her thing, and she does it. And many other people are going, wow, that's really interesting artistic expression. And there's kind of this line where, like, self-belief is maybe not always a completely positive thing.
Yeah.
Whereas being repressed and not playing at all is actually much worse.
Yeah.
So where do you find that part between being kind of liberated enough and in the flow enough to feel confident about what you're doing without being sort of completely blind that actually this isn't good enough?
Yeah.
I think that's where we all live, right?
Yeah, totally. And we had this when we had the conversation, I think it was actually the last time we did this, and I was saying that, to be honest, I don't know if I was 16 years old today, I don't know if I would be a guitar player.
Yeah.
Turning on YouTube and seeing all these people that are so mind-blowing, my fingers won't do that.
I've been thinking a lot about that since we had the conversation, and then I'll watch someone like Bob Dylan or
yes, totally.
Steve, what's his name? Americana artist. Oh God, terrible. Anyway, him. None of whom are like technically proficient guitar players, but have this power to move, and that power to move comes from, I've got something to say, and I'm going to say
it. Yeah, I think all I was saying is when I was 16, I had nothing to say, and it was all wrapped up in how good of a guitar player am I?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be 47 in a few weeks, and I still don't really have anything to say. It's frustrating.
But you know what I mean. But because that wasn't around when I was 16, and I had so much confidence, but that worked in a sense of all the rock stuff and all the crazy pyrotechnics I used to do. And man, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And it has been and is still an absolute blast.
Yeah.
But yeah, how today, where we're so surrounded and with access to all of this incredible talent, is so in our faces. So I think it does make us ultra aware.
Yeah.
That, when people are hearing you play guitar, you're thinking, well, I don't sound like John Mayer. They must think I'm rubbish. It's really tricky.
It is tricky. All I would say as a sort of final point is you only have one option, and that is to be yourself.
Yeah.
And then to remember that playing guitar is not or any music or any art is not necessarily a one-way thing. It's a conversation. You are communicating.
Yeah.
You're communicating with other humans. So it all sounds a bit heady, but if you can be yourself and remember that this is communication, I actually think that is definitely one way of telling that middleman to just shut his gob for a minute.
Yeah, totally.
Which is exactly what I should do. And move on to Jacob H., who says, per your recent Q&A advice, I'm looking into a Princeton reverb reissue to pair wet dry with my 65 Deluxe reverb reissue. Question, 65 or 68? Also, what about a 12-inch speaker? Or is that blasphemy?
If you want the Princeton sound, it's got to be that 10-inch thing, right? That is a massive part of that sound.
Yeah. It's really tough without being able to hear them, which, of course, is next to impossible at the moment. Dealing with the 65, 68 thing first, the 68 is, I think, has a little bit less negative feedback and is voiced like kind of half a step more towards a tweed, bit more urgent, bit more gain.
Yep.
That's our understanding. Whereas the 65 is your more classic mid-scoopy blackface. Although being a Princeton, it's never that mid-scoopy. Not like the Deluxes. You'll find more mid-range because the box is smaller, the 10-inch speaker. There is more of a mid-range present in the standard 10-inch Princeton. Personally, because I like big amps, because I like big speaker cabs, I've always preferred the 12-inch ones when they come out. But I would think most Princeton fans probably prefer the 10. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I first there was a he who must not be named who used loads of Princetons, and that's when I first got really turned on to that sound of the Princeton. There's something about having a bunch of those turned up together, just the most epic sound. One thing that I would say though about the Princeton thing is, I mean, yeah, they're epic and they're great. Stick a microphone in front of it and they're brilliant, and the way they sit in the frequency is great, but they do sound, it's a very specific thing, and that frequency is a very specific thing. And it will never sound like a 12-inch,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, 10s are always 10s.
In a certain area, and that's it.
Yeah, 10s are always 10s, but it is a big part of the sound of that amp.
Totally, totally.
It will work fine with the 12, if that's your question. Dan and I have...
Do they do a Princeton with a 12?
They've done numerous special editions over the years.
Right.
Do you remember when we were at Rift City in up there in the middle north of America?
Yep.
And we played one. We played a special edition one. I think that might have even had a blue in it from memory.
Right.
Celestian blue. And we were both like, oh, wow, we need to get a Princeton.
Yes. Yes, I remember that.
That was probably only about 4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Or 3. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a tough decision. Listen to loads of demos. Right? Because I'd just go with the standard stock, straight, 65, 10-inch, as it should be.
As the good Lord meant them to be.
Yes, that's where I would go. But
yeah,
there's plenty of 68 fans out there and 12-inch speaker fans out there, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just say to hell with it and get a Morgan PR12 and never look back.
Yeah, right.
Right. I'm treating myself to a new amp this week, says Ryan Vega.
Nice.
And Visa Vega. And I'm torn between a Sir Badger 35 and a Victory V40D. I'm leaning towards the Victory. What are your thoughts?
They're quite different, aren't they?
Yeah, my memories of the Badger 35 is a 4EL84 amp with power scaling, if I can remember correctly. Sir always does the rock sound.
Really great.
Bang on.
Really bang on.
And I remember the gain sounds in that being particularly lovely, which you won't get from the V40 Deluxe in that sort of more heavy, gainy, cranked Marshall-y kind of world. You won't get that from the V40 Deluxe. It's much more vintage voiced. So cranked JTM 45, you will get a little bit at the higher end of the gain range there, and of course the nice clean tones that it'll do. It's a tough one. They're very different amps, I would say. Yeah. So completely reductively, if you're in the, let's say, rockier, anywhere from classic rock to sort of contemporary kind of rock music, I would go Sir. If you're the more classic, old school blues and rock and roll, I'd go V40D. I mean, it's a terrible generalization, but that's the way I would do it. Yeah. Either of those amps.
I think you're going to have to be more specific with the pedals for the Sir.
True.
I mean, it will sound amazing with pedals, but I think as far as a pedal platform, the V40D will probably be a little bit broader in its scope.
Yeah, simply because it's less gainy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Badger does do cleaner sounds for sure, but for me, it was the gain sounds that I was like, oh, yeah. Visa Forceblom says, greetings from Finland. Hello to Finland.
Hello.
I bought the Mad Professor 51 watt 2x12 combo, and it's the best thing I know. Have you tried the amps?
I remember when they came out, when the first bunch of Mad Professor amps came out, man alive, they were so good. So good.
Harry's a legend, and the guy
he is such a clever guy,
and he hangs around with people.
Spectacular pants.
Yeah, always awesome trousers.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, so I think I've only ever played one Mad Professor amp. The one we played in Germany.
Jake Loosemore just commented and says, "Yep, order the 2-rock and can't wait." Cheers.
Good on you, Jake.
Legend.
Philippe Godbout says, from Canada, says, hey guys, just want to say thank you for the show. I hope you both have an amazing 2021.
Oh, thank you, mate. Thank you. Can only get better, right?
Yeah, who wants a bit of philosophy then? Up for a bit of quick philosophy, Dan?
Yeah, let's do it.
I gave up making New Year's resolutions a while ago as part of this whole sort of personal philosophy and psychology that I've been following and trying to get better at, not always successfully. And the only thing I'm trying to focus on is having a good this moment.
In the words of, what's his face? The keyboard player from Spinal Tap. Have a good time.
Exactly.
All the time.
That. Because, 2020, everyone's focused on 2020 as this thing that we're glad has gone. And, that's all the focus. And it's all you're doing is looking back, and all you're doing is looking forward. And I think a lot of us would just be so much happier if we could just look now, right this moment here.
Yeah.
We're all right now, because it's the only moment you ever have, right? The only moment you ever have. And we're all here together, and things are good. That's the focus. Got to be the focus for me. Otherwise, I'm going to be an unhappy bunny, and I don't want to be an unhappy bunny. Yeah,
I need more of that.
Yeah. Look at this. Look what we're doing now. Anyway, yes, I agree. I hope 2021 is better. On the subject of which, KJ Photo. Mixed reaction to being told that Midi 2.0 is coming out was basically my mood for all of 2020. Happy New Year from the city that never sleeps. Was that New York?
My wife and I often, because we were there, not last year, but the year before, 2019.
Yeah.
When we did America for our holidays. And man, we're so glad that we did. We had the best time, and I just love New York. Seriously.
Me too.
I could live there. It's what a magical place.
Yes. A mutual friend of ours who used to work at this very establishment, Daniel, helping us before Christmas, may have the opportunity to go and work there when things get a bit better.
Awesome.
Not Fraser, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything because... Anyway, but yes. And she was telling us about that. I was like, oh my God, how cool would that be? W Cart 2 says, from the United States of America, he says, or she says, or they say, Happy New Year! I wanted to get your thoughts on a V40 Deluxe, specifically the headroom. It seems like it breaks up a bit quicker than I would expect for a 40-watt amp, even in Voice 1 with the mid-kick off. I play vintage-style single coils and PAF humbuckers. Yeah, this is interesting, right? So Victory's V40 comes in... Have we got one here? Oh, that's the 140, but it looks like that thing at the back there, the cream thing. Comes in deluxe form, which has valve-driven and recovered reverb and tremolo. And it comes in like a standard compact series version, which has digital versions of those two things, or at least the reverb is digital, less tubes. And I must admit, when they were developing it, I had a hand in developing that amp for what it's worth. I would agree with you. The standard lunchbox head has more headroom. And it's been an observation made of many amps with and without extra valve section for the reverb, that they are lower headroom in general. Why is that, Dan?
Well, it's the extra gain stage of the valve amp. Oh, sorry, extra gain stage of the reverb. Yep. The makeup gain stage of the reverb.
Yeah, so whether that's a good or a less good thing for you depends on how loud you play. I think a lot of people really, really love it because it is very much easier to get that amp happening to be fair, V40 Deluxe happening is still too loud for most stages I know these days. But it's a lot easier than in, say, the clean channel of a Hot Rod Deluxe, which is just like headroom up until about 4. Like piercing, eye-popping, which is also a 40-watt 6L6 amp. Way more headroom in the clean channel than the Victory V40 Deluxe does.
Yep.
But, of course, a lot of people can't deal with that because it's just this like punch in the chest, eye-popping, wow, that's too spiky. Whereas with the V40 Deluxe, you can get it happening. So really all depends on what you want. If there's not enough headroom for you, the 140 has got unbelievable amount of headroom.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a bit more expensive. I don't think it's not double the price or anything like that. It's a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
It might seem insane buying a 100-watt amp in these days, but if you want headroom, you need the watts.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Ethan Kaplan says, hope you had a great holiday. I'm looking at trying out a DIY pedal kit, specifically a tone bender clone. Any experience with any? And if so, any recommendations? The only thing I would say is all the tone benders, fuzz faces, all the fuzz things, it all depends on the transistors. Just choose a classic circuit and then it'll all depend on the transistors. So what you're going to need to do is learn about gain ranges and leakage and that sort of stuff and, make sure you test the transistors. And it might be that you put in, when you're doing a DIY thing, it might be that instead of soldering transistors in, you put in a socket so that you can swap in and out transistors until you find the transistors that you like. That's, if you're going to start building pedals, that's what I would say. Use a socket for the transistors.
Yeah.
And then, because what's really interesting is that depending on the tone bender that you're going to make, if it's a standard 3 transistor one, or if it's a 1.5, which is the 2 transistor one, which is almost identical to a fuzz face. when they were making those back in the day, and we've got formulas now for certain, to match them, and they've got to be, specifically, X, Y, and Z. But the great thing about having sockets for the transistors is you can just mix and match and try stuff. And what you might find is really interesting, because having transistors in different ranges will produce wildly different results. So have a play, but sockets, transistor sockets.
Yeah. And then marvel, if you haven't done this already, at the variants, as Dan that was just suggesting. When we went to see Analog Man, for example, he's got these banks and banks and banks of transistors, every one that he's testing, measuring, because same transistor, same spec, same manufacturer, they might sound completely different.
Yeah.
And that is frustrating.
I think Analog Man ends up using, something like less than 10% of the transistors he finds.
Yeah, and then he's scouring the country trying to find old bits of kit that have got these transistors in that he can harvest.
Yeah.
And, put into special pedals. Rather you than me, mate. Mark Lavinish. Hi, Mark. He says, I'm looking at a red 2000 Fender Deluxe, near mint with one scar through the paint. What are your thoughts on these fenders? Can the blemish be fixed? It's all the way into the wood. So Fender Deluxe, do you mean a Deluxe Strat or a Deluxe Tele or a... not sure. What I'm assuming you mean there was a Deluxe series. There was two Deluxe series, in fact. One was the sort of entry-level Mexican-made guitars, Deluxe Stratocaster, and then there were American-made ones called other types of Deluxe. Deluxe is a word that appears throughout the Fender world. In any case, all of them are either polyester or polyurethane, probably polyurethane by that point, which, surely it can be fixed, the blemish, if you find a refinisher. The question is it worth it?
Yeah.
Depends where it is, if it's not in too visible a place, doesn't really matter. Or just live with it, scratched guitars are completely okay. And as with all Fenders, certainly that period of Fender, extremely consistent build quality, pretty good fit and finish generally, but of course two guitars might sound entirely different depending on, just the nature of Strats and Teles or Jazzmasters or Jaguars or whatever else it might be. So if it looks like a good price, you're willing to take a punt on it, think you can sell it on if you don't like it, go for it. If you're a little more reticent, then wait for COVID to be over and actually go and play some guitars. So difficult with guitars. I bought quite a few guitars having never seen them and been very happy.
I will never do that again.
Yeah. So there you go. Two very different experiences.
Yeah.
Good luck, Mark. Good luck.
Indeed.
David Burke says, Happy New Year. You were missed.
You too, mate. Thank you.
I've got one more day of holes left, earmarked for getting to know my Catlin Bred Belly Puck Deluxe and Ecorec and Harmonious Monk, all due to come out of post-delivery quarantine. Awesome.
Lovely.
Sounds like you're going to have some fun. I think I remember packing your pedal, David, actually, for what it's worth. Yes. Okay, so what we're going to say there, we're going to say... you've got an interesting question on which way to order the Belly Puck Deluxe and the Ecorec. Because you've got the preamp in the Epoch Deluxe, which is such a cool sound. Let's see, who do we know that... Ed O'Brien uses it right at the end of his signal chain, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Andy Reverb, Tone Report, Andy Demos uses it right at the end of his signal chain. I like mine at the beginning because of the preamp. Yeah. What do you think?
I personally, I think at the end, but All that matters is that you like it. You got to just keep trying it, because it will depend on the amp. It'll depend on the way you play, and there's so many factors in that there is no wrong place for it. Just keep swapping around until a sound pricks your ears up. You go, yep, that's the one.
There you go. Good luck, and enjoy, David. You'll be lost for days in those sounds, I think. Not so angry, Scott. Definitely not Nicola Sturgeon then. Go! She now come on. She is Jeanette Cranky, right? Somebody tell me she isn't. In the way that people have never seen me and Rick Astley in the same room.
That's right.
Have Nicola Sturgeon and Jeanette Cranky ever been in the same room? That's what I want to know.
That's very funny.
Have they? Do you think? Oh, which is not a slight on the Scottish nationalists, by the way. It's just not. It's not. It's just an observation. Help, Dan. Help, for God's sake, help. Anyway, Not So Angry Scott says, Happy New Year, gents. I'm looking for your help on an extra drive pedal for my board. I'm thinking of a Greer Lightspeed to pair with my Thorpe Gunshot. Or do you have another suggestion? I prefer low gain, as the Gunshot is huge, and I have a Hughes and Kettner Tubemeister 20.
I think Lightspeed is a great shout. It is obviously it doesn't have any sort of mid hump that is associated with a lot of low gain overdrive pedals. So if that EQ curve works for you, and it does for a lot of people, then the Lightspeed is an absolutely stellar low gain pedal.
Yeah, you don't say what guitars you play, but
yeah.
For example, if so, the Gunshot does have a really nice pronounced mid range if you want it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you want it, it has the ability to do that. So if you're like a single coil player and you want mid hump, then Lightspeed is really cool, great sound, but it won't give you that mid hump, just like what he said. If you're a humbucker player and you really don't want that mid hump and you just want that bit of classic rock, maybe southern rock, the Lightspeed is just glorious for those kind of sounds, I always think. The other option is to think about a Klon type, which I would always suggest.
Yep.
Depends whether you want to boost the Gunshot or you want the Gunshot to boost something else. So if you want something like colour and shape and texture, the Lightspeed before the Gunshot would be really awesome, or indeed vice versa. If you want a solo boost, then you need something more overtly boosty, like a Klon or, I don't know, RC booster, something like that, which you would run after.
Awesome. Paul Davids has just commented. He says, "Hey Dan, Paul here. I need a new board."
Oh, hi Paul.
Hey mate. Hope you're great. Hope you had a lovely Christmas. Yeah. As soon as, yes. No problem. We'll get it done as soon as. I'm really looking forward to doing it. Actually, it'll be a lot of fun. But actually, one of the questions that Paul has, because we've been talking about doing a new rig for him. And Paul uses his matchless with quite a lot of gain. So Paul wanted to use his time things in the loop. One of the issues with the matchless is the voltage coming from the loop from the sound when you turn the gain up is just
insane.
It's impossible. The only thing that you can do is have like they call them dumbulators. It transforms a passive effects loop into an active effects loop, gives you the ability to reduce the output and then the send output, and then up make up gain back on the return.
Yeah. The dumbulator was a dumble thing, by the way.
Yeah. And the problem with that, the dumbulator type thing, the problem with that with something like the matchless is that that crazy level from the preamp tube in the EF86 is what creates that sound.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get rid of that and still keep that vibe. But anyway, yes, we're going to do a board for Paul Davids.
Surely the answer is just to go wet dry then, isn't it? Don't sully the matchless and have your time-based effects into something that can
possibly,
take it.
Possibly. I think, you know what the answer is? The answer is get Paul over here for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Once we've all had our shots, we've all injected ourselves with metal zones.
Yeah.
And just try a bunch of stuff.
If you haven't seen
that will be so much fun. Paul's such a great guy. And yeah, it'll just be an absolute blast. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. If you don't know who Paul Davids is, check out his YouTube channel. He's about 20 times the size of me and Dan, and 20 times more entertaining as well. So please check out Paul Davids on YouTube. David Hammer, thank you, David, for your contribution. There's no question there, so hopefully we'll find one from you in a minute. KB, which I don't think is my wife, but KB says, thanks to TPS, I'm a devout wet-dry disciple.
Nice.
But I see how inspired you were with the CXM and Future Factory. Is wet-dry wet rig really worth it over the 2 amps wet-dry? Okay, so just to
one thing you can do is so Mick and I are both doing this at the moment. We've both got the CXM and we're both running that in stereo, but that's happening after the wet-dry feed. So
still only 2 amps.
8 stages, and then it splits, and then we'll have modulation on one side or the other, and then that can often go into a stereo reverb. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but yeah, I'm not going to be without that the CXM and stereo. It's too good.
Yeah. So just to confirm that, KB, it's not a 3 amp wet-dry wet thing. It's still 2 amps, but some of the effects are wet-dry and some are stereo. Hand on heart, I don't think I'll persist with it because, as you say, it is a massive pain in the butthole. To have to always be worried about that. I'm so much happier when it's just straight wet-dry, so that if one of your amps, if you've got a problem on the dry or whatever, you can just still get all your sound out of 1 amp.
Yeah.
However, as Dan
definitely a big commitment.
As Dan says, the sound of that CXM is so crazy good in stereo. It's very hard to unhear it.
Yeah.
But standard wet-dry, way easier to live with, and in the absence of spectacular sounding stereo pedals, I would say, personally speaking, preferable, but there's plenty of people out there who love stereo who would disagree.
Yeah, sure.
Jacob Parker used Keeley Time Machine Boost with an AC 187 transistor for $200. New Black Vox AC30 212 with creambacks for $999. Christmas gifts to myself. Thoughts? Well, the AC30 certainly sounds like good value. Or does it? With the creambacks? No, probably not. That's probably not a million miles off how much they are, is it? I don't know. I've no idea how much a new AC30 is. Obviously Chinese made now, so much less expensive than they used to be when they were British made. Well, yes, is the answer. If you feel good about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't know, which depends what I don't know. We need to reacquaint ourselves with some latest models of things, Dan.
Yeah.
Because to me, the AC30 is still the, CC version or custom, whatever it was called.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's changed since then. So, yeah, that's one of the downsides of not working for a guitar magazine anymore. I'm like 5 years behind on what the new versions of everything is.
As long as it's not stuck full of new tubes, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, and the internet just crashed again. It is a valve, man. It is a valve. It is a valve, man.
Ethan Kaplan says, do you have a preference between a blues breaker pedal or an amp in a box pedal to get that Clapton Blues Breaker sound without selling a lung to buy the Blues Breaker amp?
Oh.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's it's a question that comes up. And I'm going to hand over to Mick.
What Dan's dancing around is that all those pedals that call themselves amp in a box really aren't. You know, it. Right. Rewind. Clapton's Blues Breaker sound. What was that? Opinions differ, and accounts of who was there differs.
Mm-hmm.
The sum total of that seems to be Eric was used to playing really loud with his Marshall, and they go into Abbey Road, I think it was, to record Blues Breakers or Olympic Studios or something, wherever it was. I think it was Abbey Road. Anyway, wherever it was. And in those days, remember, you've got men in white coats, very definitely men in white coats,
Mm-hmm.
operating mixing desks and things like that. You know, it's not some long-haired dude who offers you a joint and a beer and says, chill out, man, we'll do the take at 3 a.m. That's not how it worked in 1965, 64, 65. It's literally technicians, you know, men in white coats.
Mm.
And so Clapton turns up his amp and they say, no way, mate. Absolutely not happening. They have a conversation. The amp gets cranked. No close mic by all accounts. And that's the sound. As far as we're aware. Now, if you, depending on what forum you go on, what interviews you read, there are different accounts of that. However, certainly if you listen to that guitar sound, very much sounds like that to me.
Yep.
So what's the essential ingredient there, right? One is, well, of course, Clapton. You don't have that, so we need to move on. None of us have that. I actually think what you're hearing in that guitar sound is as much the sound of that room as it is the flipping Les Paul and the amp.
100%.
So it might be that, yes, the gain structure and the EQ and all that is really important, but what might be equally important is a really brilliant room reverb.
Yeah, 100%. It's no coincidence that some of the best sounding records ever made are created in those walls.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been in there, in that studio, it's so interesting. It's got a crazy high ceiling.
Yeah.
And that sort of corky texture stuff they put on the walls. And it's a fascinating space.
Yeah.
It has a sound. It really does.
Yeah. To be fair, it was actually recorded at Decca Studios in West Hampstead.
Right. Okay, cool.
I don't know where that is, but everything that Dan just said about Abbey Road relates to any great studio. It has a sound all its own, and that's probably just as much a part of it. As for the gain itself, a Blues Breaker pedal kind of requires an amp to work with. Like any overdrive pedal requires an amp to work with, and that's true of amp in a box type pedals as well. The only thing you get in an amp in a box type pedal which can be beneficial is usually a bit of extra EQ option. So in a Blues Breaker, what are the EQ controls on a Blues Breaker, Dan? Any idea? Do you get bass and treble on a Blues Breaker?
No, just bass, just gain, tone and drive.
Okay, so it might be then that an amp in a box, even though it's not an amp in the box, might give you more control over EQ. Therefore, you can sort of shape it to get the bottom end that you want. But while you're looking at your gain, look equally hard at a really decent room reverb kind of sound.
Yeah, that's good.
Blooming great sound, though. What a great sound.
Unreal.
What a killer guitar sound that was.
Yeah.
Well, it changed everything, didn't it? Changed everything. Where's Chilton?
I watched a really fascinating Netflix documentary on Robert Johnson.
Oh, yeah, you said.
And his grandson's in it.
Wow.
And footage of his son. And it was one of the most inspiring things I've seen in a while. And obviously, as anyone who watches the show will know, I'm certainly no blues aficionado. But that really made me want to go back and study what he did. It was absolutely fascinating. But so why I said that is there's a whole folklore around what Robert Johnson did, and there's a whole folklore around all of the greats.
Yeah.
And certainly Eric, there's this analogy, right? That I won't go through it. It's a bit ridiculous, but everyone that's chasing the Eric Clapton thing. I think most of the time it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, that's true of all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
One thing that and we're all at different stages of this throughout your life and your interest in guitar. Your critical listening ability changes massively. I mean, I can hear things now that I had literally no idea even existed when I was 25, and I'm quite sure that as long as my hearing holds out, that in another 10 years that will improve again, or improve. I say improve. It's actually sometimes it can be a real disadvantage because it becomes an inhibitor. Whereas back then you think, oh yeah, I know what that was, and you sort of go at it blindly.
Yeah.
Back to our 16-year-old selves who didn't have the internet to put us off playing a guitar. What you believe it is what it is. Yeah. And that's what you hear because your brain is such a complex bit of kit that fills in all the gaps for you until you know that it's filling in the gaps, and then you work it out. Oh my God.
100%.
So what's the conclusion? Yeah, well, you need a Les Paul, or at least a decent two-humbucker guitar that is in the vein of a Les Paul. And you need to play with some conviction.
Yeah.
Bit of reverb, bit of Marshall-type overdrive. And
just get stuck in.
You're there.
Yeah, totally.
Good luck. Where's Chilton?
Well, I actually, just to finish off that point, I heard Mick do a Clapton evening, and Mick was using his two-rock. Sounded more like Clapton than anyone else on the stage. Honestly, it was incredible. I mean, you had your 335 and your cravat. But it was like, wow, that's just the closest I'd heard.
My favourite bit of that whole gig was the rotary speaker bit in Badge.
Yeah, man. It was just
That's my favourite bit of that whole gig.
Yeah, really great. Jamie Hill says, Happy New Year, chaps. Evidence Audio Monorail. Can you reuse them when they've been flexed a bit? How much tip do you show? How many turns is too many?
These are all great questions.
Yeah, Reuse when they've been flexed a bit? Yeah, totally. They're fine. They are solid core, so you can't keep bending them. That's a problem. But if you're I've used the same cables on like 10 different board builds.
Yeah, me too.
No problems at all.
Yeah, obviously you need to get rid of the end.
Yeah, yes, of course. You if you're going to resize them and stuff, you've got to get rid of the end. How much core do you show? I show about 5 mil, but the most important thing about that is that you've got this insulator around the center core, and it's a black insulator. You need to get rid of that. So fold down the shield, the copper shield on the outside, get rid of the insulator, and you'll have about 5 mil of 5 mil of the white insulator. On top of that, you'll have 5 mil of copper core. Put the end on, screw in, maybe 5 times, and then that's when you bend it over, put the cap on, and then screw it up to be tight. There is a learning curve with that stuff.
Yeah.
Just take your time, and it will come. It's a much less learning curve than soldering.
Yeah.
Cables.
I always get one that doesn't quite work properly, and I didn't think this was even possible with cables, but it half works.
Yeah. So okay. What's really interesting about that is if you get like the braid, the insulation, that copper stuff, if one little bit of that is touching on the tip, the cable will still work, but it will be greatly diminished in its ability to, to do stuff cleanly.
The audio for this would be utterly hilarious.
With a low impedance pedal, it'll probably sound fine. You hit that cable with like a fuzz or something, and suddenly it'll just sound rubbish. Yeah, cables, man. Yes.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck.
Wes Chilton. Hello, Wes. He says,
Wes.
Happy New Year, guys. What would be the best way to connect multiple amps to the UA aux to switch between them? I've also just released 2 new tracks to Spotify over the holiday. Well, good on you, Wes. Check out Wes Chilton on Spotify. Wes Chilton. You need, if you want multiple amps connected to the aux, you need some sort of device to handle the impedance issue when the other amps aren't connected. So that
tone bone do a thing called, is it switchbone or a headbone or something?
Yeah, headbone might be right. Yeah,
and
might be
that can work.
Yeah,
but you've got to be so careful with that.
What happens is as you switch from one amp to the other, obviously the amp that you're not using loses the load of the speaker, and that's extremely dangerous for a valve amp, particularly. So you just need a device that will do that. It's okay if you've got a load on there. It's okay if you're not playing through it because you're not creating any voltage on the output. Yeah. But with the problem is if you've only got one amp connected at a time, you never really know what is coming out the other side. It's a really tricky thing, and if you don't have the load in there, the output transformer can go bang. And I've had it happen to me before, where I've not had I've mismatched the impedance on the output, and my old JMP50 output transformer, badoo, boom, goodbye.
Yeah, and it stinks.
So check out Radial. Do something either called a switchbone or a headbone. We're not quite sure which. Yeah. And also, there's the whole Ampete range.
Yes.
Ampete, Ampete, make a range of guitar amp and cab switchers, which do very clever things with impedance and all that, which could lead you in the right direction. Good luck.
Yes, totally. Simon Burgess says, easy, non-technical question. How did you chaps meet? I've followed you for a good few years, but I don't recall you ever mentioning it. Cheers and Happy New Year. Oh, thanks, Simon. Well, this was back in the heady days of 2004.
I was walking up and down the King's Road with my Labradoodle.
So Mick was the editor of a magazine called Guitar Buyer, and I had been working on our first product, the Pro 14, and I loved reading Guitar Buyer. It was my favourite guitar mag. And I was really desperate to have our new product featured in Guitar Buyer. So I called up Mick and, actually, I think I talked to Tim.
Tim Slater.
Tim Slater.
Yeah, wow.
Came down and met you both and hung out. It was. And Mick saw that I was a fan of vintage pedals. So I had this, crazy pedalboard done with a Pro 14 and, the CE1 and Mistress and all this stuff. And Mick said, I see that you like this stuff. Do you fancy doing a column for the magazine for a few months? And that's basically how we met. And we've been sort of mates ever since.
Yep. He came in with the Pro 14. I was like, wow, I really don't understand what this is all about. But he's really passionate and it sounds unbelievable. So, that's that's how it started.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, Mick, we stayed in touch. I think Mick's always been a wonderful source of, it's just someone, we all have friends like this, someone that you can go to get a genuine, honest opinion. And those sorts of people in your lives are just, they're worth more than all the gold in the world. And Mick's always been that for me. And even though there's been times, I remember when Mick was working at Guitarist, and he was the busiest man in the world. I remember once you borrowed my Memory Man, you jumped on your bike and came down, and I hadn't seen you in months, and got to spend 20 minutes with you, and then you're off again. But it was always there with I could always call him up and get an honest opinion. And I think having, I call them tone buddies. I think having people in your life, if you're a guitar player, that you can talk to about this stuff and get, it does make a massive difference. And I've had, there's been a couple of people in my life that's been true of, but obviously never more so than now. Because whenever we talk, because we're both so passionate about how being connected with the right gear makes you feel, we can just talk about this stuff for hours.
Days.
Even when we're supposed to be talking about work.
Yeah.
It's still true now.
Well, that's how that pedal show started, wasn't it? It was
exactly.
We were supposed to be talking about work.
Not talk about it. Yeah. So that's how we met.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, mate, for your kindness.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
That's a very kind thing to say. Dan just tells lies all the time. No truth there at all.
We've got 20 minutes left, Nick. How
are we doing? Okay, let's...
I think we might be okay. I don't know. You tell me.
I think we might be okay. Carl Longbottom's been on.
Oh, Carl!
Hello, Carl. Nice to hear from you. Carl made Dan and I a couple of very nice custom guitars that are going to see a bit more airtime in 2021.
He's actually modding mine.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
If the guy on Reverb will get back to me about these, the original...
wide range humbuckers.
Wide range humbuckers, the Fender wide range Seth Lover humbuckers.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I found them. They're really expensive, but I really want the originals because I'm an idiot. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, yes. If he ever gets back to me, then yes, I'm going to get them sent straight to Carl and we'll get this thing...
modded with that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. They're expensive, but at least they're unavailable.
Welcome to that pedal show.
Anyway, Carl says, Happy New Year, gents. Mr. T says, I ain't playing no digital amp, fool. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I do sometimes, Carl. I do sometimes. Midi Mix. Hi, guys. Welcome back. I'm building myself a T-style guitar. Nice. What are the best pickups for a solid rock feel? What are your thoughts? For 100 quid. Thanks, says Spike. Oh, that's a really tough one, Spike. There's so many great pickups out there. I don't know if Kent Armstrong still makes pickups. Kent Armstrong always used to make really good, cost-effective pickups.
Right.
I think his son maybe runs the business now. I'm not really sure. Who else would we look at? There's a lot of... Where are you? You're in the UK. There's a lot of really good UK makers who aren't very expensive, Who am I thinking of? The Creamery, is it? Maybe? Quite a few good brands. I just do a YouTube search, go on a Google search. Yeah. Seymour Duncan. Here we are, always talking about boutique brands. Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio still exist, and they still make great pickups.
They do indeed.
Yeah. So that would certainly be a tried and tested route.
I used a Seymour Duncan Telecaster pickup in my first telly. Mick, who does that? What's his name? He does that lick. He does this one. He goes...
I'll need that again, questioner.
Right, so he does that lick where he goes...
Oh, Jerry Donahue.
Jerry Donahue. So he had a signature Seymour Duncan bridge pickup. And I used that for years, and it did everything. That's the one.
Ooh. I apologise for my awful bending. A, the guitar's out of tune. B, it's got nines on it. C, the action's really, really low. Those are my excuses.
Nice.
Yeah. Seymour Duncan.
Seymour Duncan, great shout.
Have you ever heard of Seymour Duncan Quarter Pounder?
Oh, you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I had a Strat that had a quarter pounder in the bridge, and then a couple of other bits and pieces. But ultimately, I had a Seymour Duncan. It then went from a Seymour Duncan Invader in the bridge, something else in the middle, and a quarter pounder in the neck. And it was the best neck sounding pickup I have ever had in my Strat. It was just killer.
Boom.
Massive notes.
A lot of pickup there. A lot of pickup.
Yeah.
Purple Chalks. Purple Chalks says this. I read this before I read it out because I was like, oh no. It says I plug my Monk in. Silence. Turns out it was a center positive power lead. So that's why power supply leads are color coded. And I'm going,
oh no.
Oh no. I am pleasantly surprised I didn't blow it up.
Good
work by Jam to make it robust.
Yeah.
That's a word of caution there to everyone to make sure you plug in the right power supply to your pedals.
Big P, baby, Big P.
Yeah, and thanks for buying a harmonious Monk.
Yeah, thank you.
David Allman. Any thoughts on specific pedals to use with a steel resonator guitar that aren't delay and reverb? Also in terms of amplification, mini humbucker versus piezo versus a standalone mic. That's really interesting. It's not an area that either Dan or I know much about.
No.
I would listen to some players who've done it down the years. Eric Sardinas is the one that comes to mind. Me, who played like a dobro with a cutaway and used to do this trick with a bottle of beer up the neck. And I think he had a mini humbucker and a piezo, and they were mixed maybe.
Yeah.
Also,
Rhett Shull did a video recently. One of his friends is a Nashville recording artist, and he's going through all of his dobros and his pedal boards for his dobros. So if it's quite recent, so if you go through some of Rhett's recent videos, you'll see that some of the sounds he gets out of his dobros are incredible.
Yeah. I would like to watch that, actually. It's such a great sound. The one that you're going to struggle with hardest is the standalone mic, because obviously your physical proximity to it is an issue, unless, of course, you sit in one position and you're lucky enough, or at least you're able enough to have a microphone that's always in a pretty decent position. Then the question is, where do you mic it? You know, obviously if it's a resonator, it's got cone or cones in there that you need to get fairly close to. That's probably the most natural sound, but the most difficult to deal with, feedback, all the rest of it. And then piezos are really cool. Piezos are piezoelectric contact type pickup like you would get in an electroacoustic guitar. I would have thought some mix of piezo and pickup, like magnetic pickup would be pretty cool, but it depends what's in the guitar already. So listen to some of your favourite players and maybe do some Googling on what they use. Also check out Mule Resonator Guitars. He's putting out loads of great content and makes amazing instruments. Yeah. So yeah, good luck.
Indeed. Matt Bradbury says, Happy New Year, fellas. Thank you, Matt. That's really generous, mate. Thank you so much.
Who was that?
Really
sorry, mate?
Matthew Bradbury.
Thanks, Matthew. Puppy Cow says, this is for the beer fund. What is your favourite adult beverage?
Oh, man, you know what? G&T I find energising. And I think for that reason alone. However, my favourite drink, because of where he had it, but first time I experienced it, Mick and myself and our wives were in Rome, and I saw everyone drinking this orange thing. I said, "What's that?" And Mick said, "Oh, it's what's it called?
Aperol Spritz."
An Aperol Spritz. I went, "Oh, yes, please." And every time I have an Aperol, it just takes us straight back to being in Rome and the sun in the afternoon and sat in that little area and it was just so much fun. So yes.
Red wine is mine. Definitely red wine. Adrian Edmondson, who is a British actor, comedian, writer, famously played Vivian in The Young Ones. Back along. Aid was on the radio the other night, and it was the wine programme, which is this terribly Radio 4 thing, right? For any of you outside of the UK, Radio 4 is the last bastion of Britishness, which is a good or a bad thing, depending on how you view it. It actually makes my blood boil 90% of the time. But anyway, we put it on for the dog. The wine programme comes on, and it's a really excellent conversation. Have you ever seen there was a series about... if you're interviewing someone, right, an interview can be really stilted and boring. And
yes.
What's your favourite colour? So what you do is you pick something to talk about somebody's life through their experience of it. The car is a great one. So there was this great thing also on Radio 4 where they would talk through, I think it was Radio 4, where they would talk through their cars. So, of course, you'd say, what was your first car? And you say, well, I was 18 and it was a Fiat 126. And I remember at that time, that's when we wrote Dark Side of the Moon.
Nice.
So it's a really good format. Anyway, so this is wine. Adrian Edmondson is saying when Rick Mail was alive and they were on tour, Rick had been an alcoholic and he was an alcoholic and he was recovering. So in sort of solidarity with Rick, Aid wasn't drinking on tour. So what he did instead is he read about wine and he built up his cellar for when he got back at Christmas. So he could get back on it, which is all to say, I don't think me or Dan are drinking at the moment.
That's true.
Yes, I am not drinking at the moment, and Dan probably isn't either. So
no.
It's partly January for me, but it's also it doesn't help my depression. It absolutely is the worst thing in the world for my depression. So I'm trying to have some time away from it just to see if it helps, general January detox.
Yeah. I had a detox in December, and then I had just a couple of drinks over Christmas, and then I just think I do need a break from it.
Yeah,
because things are.
We both
it's funny. There's a few people saying, "Hey, like my secret machine says, hi lads, Dan, may I ask how COVID has impacted the gig rig? Business been bad or good?" And people say, "Is Dan okay? There's something wrong with Dan," and I'm fine.
What, saying it on today's chat?
Yeah.
Oh right.
And thank you for your concern, everyone. No, I'm fine. Obviously, you can see this is. I let my beard grow out, and I realised just how grey it was, and how. Because let's not beat around the bush. Last year was massively stressful.
Yeah.
And there was a point. I realised there was a point where self-grooming had crossed over into denial, and I'm really just want to say no. This is happening. I'm going to be 50 this year, and I'm going to embrace it because everything else is lunacy. Gig rig has been great. It's been really, really hard work.
Yeah.
Because the product launch was so massive, and it's basically started from scratch.
Yeah.
2 new engineers, started everything from scratch, and that took months and months. And it's the amount of money that goes into producing something like that is really substantial.
Which would be hard enough in a normal year.
Exactly. And like for example, we got when we launched G3, it did a lot better than we expected. But with that, we got people who are desperate to get their hands on it, but we can't increase our production capacity because we can't have any more workers in the area. And so it's like, no, and because we're trying to keep everyone safe. We love our team and they're the most amazing bunch of people, and we're desperate to keep everyone safe. So it just adds a level of stress. So I think last 2020 had some real highlights for us. But I think as far as stress and everything is concerned, I am, because also I'm not training.
Yeah.
I've come to realise, well, I sort of always knew it, but having this time off from training jiu-jitsu, I now realise just how imperative that stuff is for my own mental health. But the reality is, this is, this is all happening, and there's no, it's like, I just don't see the point in, what am I trying to say? The whole guitar playing thing, as I'm getting older, I'm loving more and more. And my journey with jazz harmony and songwriting and that sort of stuff, I'm loving more and more the older I get. Now, when you're in a stressful situation like it has been last year, one of the first thing that goes, apart from any colour in your facial hair, one of the first thing that goes is your inspiration to be creative.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do now is find new ways to deal with that so I can get back into being musical, being creative, because that I live for that stuff. So yes, thank you to everyone's concern. I'm really great. I'm really great.
But you'll be greater when we can go out again.
Oh, the gigs that we did were some of the most fun gigs. And that gig with Joey, I will never forget that.
Yeah. Certainly the best gig I've ever done.
One of the best gigs I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And we had gigs with Andy Timmons lined up.
Yeah.
Imagine playing on stage with Andy Timmons at the Cabin Club. It's just like, so I'm so desperate to get back into that.
Yeah.
And boom.
Okay. More prosaically, David Sisbarrow, thank you, David, for your question. He says, I play single coils through a deluxe reverb, and I'm looking to get my first wet dry rig, a Vox AC15 with an Alnico Blue, an orange combo, or something else.
Oh, well, I'm always going to say AC15 with Alnico Blue. Always.
It's such a fantastic pair for the deluxe reverb, because just those two amps are such a great complement for each other, frequency response wise.
Totally. It will sound, those two amplifiers sound so much bigger than the sum of their parts.
Yeah.
They work so beautifully together. So
I'd be a perfect pairing, the AC15.
Yeah.
I think. The only thing with the AC15, certainly the new ones, they do need a tube change fairly regularly if you run them hard.
Right.
I think we've been through more sets of output valves on that amp than any other here.
Yeah.
When we boot it. So with that in mind...
And they are a bit of a pig to get to as well.
Yeah, they are. So with that in mind... but if you're not cranking it all the time, much less of an issue. And actually, if you're not cranking it all the time, you'd be amazed at how similar they sound at low volumes because of the bright cap in the deluxe.
Yeah, right.
Nina Head DJ says, how about taking submissions for a Critique My Board episode? Thanks for the content, he says in content. Yeah, lots of people want us to do that, Critique My Board. So you send in a picture of your board, we essentially replicate it if we've got the stuff, and say what we would do to improve it or what we could get out of it. I quite like it, actually. As long as nobody was offended.
I'm totally up for that. I think it'd be really interesting for whoever's board, like, because the reality is we can probably approximate most boards,
most things, yeah.
And so I think it'd be really interesting for you to hear it when we play through it.
Yeah, because that'd be a very different
and into
experience.
our reads and stuff. And I think you'll be really surprised at how just having different players playing through the same thing, what that does.
Yeah, which is not necessarily to say better, by the way. It's
no, absolutely.
Just different.
It's just having a bit of a point of reference.
Yeah. The problem we would run into every time, pretty much, is we would say, okay, you need to really think about this power supply.
Yeah.
because that's where 90% of your problems is going to be coming from, and patch cables and all the rest of it. And look what happens when you put it on a switcher. So you come away going, oh my God, they've just done 600 quid on my pedal board with a switcher and, with a basic loop switcher and a power replant. It's worth more than the whole board put together. And we'll be like, yep. It makes a colossally massive difference to your average 7 or 8 pedal board.
Yep, totally.
So if we could find a way of leapfrogging that little problem and just saying, okay, well, we're going to live with this power supply and all the noise and hum that comes with it, which is, God, does it sound arrogant to say that, or is it just a weariness of solving so many problems on so many pedal boards that start with the power supply?
Yeah, no, I think at this stage in the game, it's just, we can save you so much time if you start with these couple of things. The power supply is a massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
Brian Tobiah says, Happy New Year. Hope you had a great and restful holiday. Just ordered G3 Atom, and last episode was very helpful with setup tips. Thanks also for the advice last time on amps. I went with the 100/50 watt classic reverb sig. Can't wait. Mate, when you get that amplifier, that's the same as yours, right, Mick?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the best amplifier I've ever heard. It just is. I mean, obviously, my Mattress is my dream amplifier. I can't play mixed amplifier. It's too much for me. I need that limiting and those harmonics and stuff that the Matchless has. But when I hear, I'll never forget that the day I walked in and the first day Mick had that 61 Strat. And before I walked into the studio, I just stood outside the door and I just sat there for a bit and listened. And the sound was just blowing my mind. And I walked in and then Mick just Strat into that amp. It was best guitar sound I ever heard. Unbelievable.
Bless you, mate.
Very, very special amplifier.
It is, it is. And then some days, not so special, and some days I want to throw it out the window, but those days are few and far between. Because the reason for that is it sounds really good in 50 watt mode.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Sounds 100 though.
It sounds really good quiet in 50 watt mode. It sounds unbelievable in 100 watt mode loud. It sounds so crazy good when it's breathing. It's and of course you just can't do that. I'm getting to the point where that is becoming impossible. But my God, what a noise.
Yep, totally.
Right, we're going to have to say no more super chats. Thank you for everyone who's super chatted. We've got way behind. In fact, oh my God, we are so far behind, Dan. So let's speed up. David Allman. Thank you, gents. Dan, next time I'm counting the cars on the New Jersey Turnpike, I'll be thinking of you two.
Oh, man. Even just the thought of that song and I start welling up. Yep, thank you, buddy.
Hello from Brazil, says Ricardo Franco.
Ciao.
Happy 2021. Thanks for all the knowledge, which led me to an all-analog wet-dry board. I really feel among friends watching you guys.
That's wonderful, mate. Well done.
And you, Ricardo. Thank you very much for your contribution. Jarius Grove, or Gyrus Grove, apologies for the pronunciation. Happy New Year from Honolulu.
Oh, wow.
I love the Harmonious Monk.
Warm there. I bet it's Honolulu. Sounds like it's really warm.
Why don't you just move back to There's Rock, Dan?
Yeah, no, there's a line. I mean, there's warm and there's, boiled alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Harmonious Monk, says Gyrus. It should hold me over until I find a brown face with my name on it. It's been a year and you lot have made it all a lot more bearable.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, mate. And you for us as well.
Yeah.
All of you people out there, getting to hang out with you guys has made such a difference to us. Thank you.
What do you guys think about modern 2-point Strat bridges? Says Eric's Electric Empire. Is it a deal breaker when looking for a Strat? It is for me.
It's me.
It is for me personally, Eric, just because I can't deal with any floating system. Well, actually, having said that, the PRS DGT one is the only one I can. I don't know what they've done to make that so good, but it's still 6 pivot. Now, there are plenty of people who really do like that 2 pivot bridge. And if you look at most of the Sir artist roster, you'll find a lot of Sir players using the 2 pivot bridge. It's got a sound all its own. One of the things that annoys me about the 2 pivot bridge when it floats is you get warble. Hit the guitar hard, it warbles. That happens on any floating bridge. So if you've got the kind of right hand attack that I have, it's just a non-starter. You can put them flat on the body, which would solve that problem. And I would guess, depending on what it's made out of, at that point, if it's flat on the body, you're talking marginal difference between that and the 6.1, probably tonally. But if you've got it set as it's designed to be set floating, that's the deal breaker for me. The benefit of that, of course, is it's way more tuning accurate, a lot more sensitive to movement. So if you like to use the bar a lot and have a touch that would benefit, that can deal with it, then it's more efficient and it stays in tune better. So that's its main thing. Personally, I don't think they sound as good as the 6-point vintage style bridge on a proper decent vintage style Strat, but that is entirely a personal opinion, and there are plenty of people out there playing 2 pivot bridges on modern type Strats, not least Jeff Beck for a little while there, making awesome noises. So, you know, for me it's a deal breaker, but certainly not for millions of other people out there.
Sure.
Hope that explains it. Aaron Martin, I played a wet dry rig for the first time recently, an AC15 with a warehouse G12 and a JTM 35 through a 212. Thanks for the enlightenment. But my bank account disagrees, says Aaron from Southern Nashville. Yeah, it's a revelation whenever you hear it. Ethan Kaplan, hope you had a great holiday. We've had that one. Yep. Ethan. Angus M, thank you for your contribution. Brent Porter, what features should someone look out for in a soldering iron for guitar? I'm a total newbie to electric work, but I want to be able to solder a pickguard myself. Okay,
so the new breed of soldering irons have to be able to solder silver solder. So lead solder is now illegal, and that means that the melting temperatures are higher. Okay, so you need a soldering iron that goes up to at least 400 degrees Celsius. Because what you need to do, because the melting temperature is so much higher in the solder, you need to be able to get in and get out before you do damage to stuff.
Yeah.
So, yes, you need a soldering iron that's able to heat up a small area very quickly. So, yeah. You need 400 degrees and always use really good solder, and then you should be okay.
I bought one of those solder stations, kind of similar to one that Dan uses. I think they're about, in the UK they're sort of 60 or 70 pounds, so more than a soldering iron, and that's pretty good. I was talking to Ron Ellis, and he's like, no, what you need is this. Sends me this link to this pro soldering station that's like $600 or something. And he's like, this will solve all your problems.
Yeah.
What I did do is, if you go, there's a great company called Six String Supplies, I think they're called. Let me just double check that. They have great tuitional videos.
Right.
And I watched a soldering... Yeah, Six String Supplies. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. Mm-hmm. And I watched their... Yes, it is. Okay, Six String Supplies. I watched their basic beginner's tutorial on soldering, and it was really, really brilliant. I thoroughly recommend it. So please watch that.
Yeah. And just make sure everything that you're soldering is clean.
Yeah, including the tip of your soldering iron, which is something I never knew.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's loads of information on that.
Mark Daly, what do you think of the Jackson Audio Bloom? It's an EQ compressor and boost in one, and your mate Jay Landreth had a hand in it. Plus, it's MIDI capable. I'm thinking there's a lot there for clean tones. Yeah. Presumably the same platform as the
Golden Boy.
The Golden Boy and the other Overdrive, all of those things that you just said. It always sounds great, Jackson Audio stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Issue for me is what we highlighted in the MIDI show is that it's not WYSIWYG. And I have a basic disconnection with being able to try and tell the difference between a light orange and a red LED or a green and a blue LED. I'm not colorblind, but my brain can't compute the information quick enough. So from a usability point of view, it's about hours in. You just need to get so familiar that you stop worrying about all of that. But tonally, Jackson Audio stuff, blimey.
Yeah.
He doesn't
really
mess
great.
about, does Brad?
Yeah. Mick, one for you. Jack Argentino says, Mick, will you upgrade to Amplitude 5? It looks to have a massive amount more signal path flexibility than Amplitude 4. Curious to hear your thoughts since the last at-home bedroom tones episode.
I haven't tried it. I'm a big fan of IK Multimedia stuff right across the board, like from their various I/O devices that they make to their iLoud monitors are really fantastic. Their software always feels like it's been designed by guitar players. I mean, it's just very intuitive and really brilliant. I actually don't use anything like that anymore because for example, over Christmas, I have not touched a guitar. So since we stopped filming, I've probably played my acoustic for maybe 10 minutes in 2 weeks, which is a terrible shame, but I literally haven't touched a guitar over the whole period. So anytime I play the guitar, I'm in here playing loud. And my time with the guitar is now so precious that I want this all the time or nothing.
Yeah,
so
gotcha.
That is a bit sad to say that. But knowing IK Multimedia, I mean, every single upgrade of what they do is always stellar. So I have no reason to suspect that Amplitude 5 isn't a great improvement over 4, or at least, worth the upgrade. I think they make the upgrades pretty cost effective if you've got the previous version, as far as I'm aware. But, good luck with that.
Yeah. Justin Baylog says, late to the game, gents, but wanted to shout out the Harmonious Monk. I got mine during holiday and it fits right in the mix. Thanks for all you do, legends. Oh, cheers, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. Brilliant. That's really cool to hear. We just, because, excuse me, they got sent out, quite a lot of them got sent out on the 23rd or the 24th of December. So with various holiday postal issues across the world, lots of people are only just getting them now. In fact, I think another whole bunch went out today and yesterday. No, Friday. No, because that was New Year's Day. There was one day last week when some went out, and the balance have gone out today, I think. So yeah, we're just getting the feedback. We're starting to get the feedback of what people think, and it's very gratifying to hear it. Jason No says, happy 2021. I had some happy accidents. Blimey. On my split FX rig. The Echopus has low headroom, so it can't go in the loop. Has a good sound in front. Old Blood Noise Endeavour's white cap trem flips phase when on, which is an interesting EQ effect. I love that.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before where, theoretically at least everything should be this. And then you discover that it's not that. And it's like, wow, that's a really cool sound. Let's just run with it.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, Jason, on the Echopus, an analog delay like that really ought to be in the front all the time.
Yeah, totally.
It's designed to do that. And it's a great sound, as you've discovered.
Yep.
Blake Pursley. Is there a hack for using an H9 in a wet-dry rig other than running 100% wet? Maybe using some sort of analog wet-dry blend pedal for the H9, says Blake, which is a question for Daniel.
Yeah, just running it in parallel. getting a mixer pedal and sticking it in a loop, and then run it in parallel. That will keep your dry signal intact and no latency, and then blending the H9 stuff. Because the H9, the Midi is so capable on the H9, it works really well that way. Now, all I would say is that there are things where you don't necessarily want the dry sound on, but like, if you imagine using it as a harmonizer, having your original dry sound analog, no latency, and then having the harmony come on top of, mixing on top of that is a great way to do it. So yes, what you're looking for is a little parallel mixer blend pedal.
Dan makes one called the Wetterbox, just in case you're interested in that. Jorgen Severin Einarsson from Norway says, Happy New Year, guys. Just want to say thanks for the knowledge, kindness and feeling of friendship. Cheers from Norway. Likewise.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Thank you, Norway.
Yeah.
And you, Jorgen. Jason Carapazzi. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
He says, Happy New Year, you titans of tone. I finally got a job after 6 months of being laid off by COVID.
Congratulations, mate.
Congrats.
Well done.
It's well paying too. Wow. My wife says no new gear until we buy our first house. I just want to say Tom Petty was right. Awesome. Airfire. Happy New Year, gents. Any chance of a 2021 intentions video like you did last year? I loved it, and it was one of the reasons I finally bought my first guitar. Oh, yeah.
Mate.
We said 5 things we were going to do, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
We should revisit that, because I'm quite certain I haven't done any of them. You definitely have, because one of yours was work on your jazz theory, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been working on it. I've got a long way to go. Oh! Shout out to my mate Tom Quayle, who's released an app this week that I've been playing with called Solo. And it is brilliant.
Tom Quayle Solo app for learning.
Tom Quayle, sorry. And there's Tom Quayle did it with another gent. I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, it's really brilliant app that helps you to look at the fingerboard in a different way and learn the notes in chords and things. It's so clever. The app actually listens to your guitar playing.
Is it Dave Beebe that he's done it with?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I didn't know that, by the way. I've Googled it and I still haven't found the information. I just guessed because Tom and Dave are big mates. So Tom and Dave, congrats.
Yeah.
Nice. Solo.
Really great.
Will we make that video? Maybe, depending on what Boris is going to say at 8 p.m.
Yes.
We may have to get very creative with our filming schedule over the next few weeks. Well, we're going to have to do that anyway. Yeah. I'm just not making any more plans ever. Just this moment. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, that's lovely.
My 2021 plan is to just this moment.
Yeah, that's nice. Romulo Gomes says, currently I have a Magnatone Twilighter stereo and a Sir Bella reverb combo.
Cool.
What do you guys think about that combination for a wet-dry rig? It's really interesting because the Magnatone Twilighter stereo, so that's got the stereo harmonic tremolo in it.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah. And the Sir Bella reverb, I mean, I think it's wonderful. What I love about that is having the Sir Bella dry.
Yeah.
And then having that glorious harmonic trem, next to that. I think that'd be epic.
That's
really,
serious.
really lovely, Romulo.
Serious ampage, that, isn't it? That's big.
Serious.
Grown-ups amplifiers.
And Derek Wyman says, cheers, guys. Thanks for all the hours of fun and learning in 2020. I love my harmonious mug. Awesome, Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, buddy.
Great to hear. Sam Johnson, bros. Because of y'all, that's all of us, I have a full-tone Clyde Deluxe, a build your own fuzz face, BYOC, build your own, Tumnus, Tonebender Mark III, OCD, Wampler Ego. Do you foresee any issues with this? Any advice adding a light overdrive or boost? Interesting, you've got your Wampler Ego at the end. That totally can work there. I think the Ego's got a blend control on it, hasn't it? So if you want, as we've said it many times, if you want the overt compression, stick it more at the front. But yeah, very cool there. If that's, you want it to act kind of like, you know, an amp with a bit of sag, it can do it, or like a studio type compressor does a great job in that. Yeah, the order of your fuzz face and your tone bender all depends on the input and output impedances of those pedals and whether they all sit together nice. What I always find with multiple gain stages is it can start to get a bit confusing. So the best thing to do is to take two at a time.
Yeah, that's good.
And just see which way around they work. We got a problem, Dan. Yeah. Man's worst friend has just arrived. Rosie here. Rosie here. Thanks, Bebbers. Rosie, what's this? What have I got? Bit of sausage. There you go. Right. Dog update. Pup date.
Pup date. Very good.
Rosie has become...
That's very good.
Big girl.
Rosie has become almost like a proper dog. What's this? Bit of sausage, Rosie. What are you eating now?
Oh, man.
Bit of Velcro.
Look at her. She's amazing.
Bit of Velcro.
Okay.
Here's Rosie. For anyone who doesn't know, Catherine and I acquired a Sprocker Spaniel just recently. Half Cocker Spaniel, half Springer Spaniel. Look, Rosie, look at your adoring public. There they are. Look at them. And she is absolutely amazing, albeit quite hard work. There you are. There you are, Pupsy. So, as you can see, she's really delightful.
She's grown so much.
Yeah, she really has. She's like a proper spaniel now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
She's gorgeous.
There you go, babe. Right, better let her go. Off you go, love. Catherine's obviously looking after her. She's not walked around in here before, so this is a new thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're about to see if she likes Telecasters.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Rosie here.
Whether she prefers the...
That's a lovely relic job you've got on the telly. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah,
it's a bit scratchy. Jay Lyon says, thanks for the thought-provoking topics and demos. Very much appreciated during this crazy time. So you're welcome, Jay. And Patrick Carroll says, boys, quick acoustic string question. I put E, B Earthbound 12s on my Gibson B25, but my tuners are real tight after putting these on. Is this normal? And welcome back.
It's old tuners are a real toughie, especially if I don't know what's on the B25, but if it's those kind of Ivoroid open back, old school, or even Clusons for that matter, they can get really tight because they do need to be lubricated a little bit.
Yeah.
And once they start to go, yeah. So are we suggesting you've gone up a string gauge? Is that what's happened there? And that's
I think so. It's gone to heavier string gauge.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's a Google one. I don't actually know what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck with that, mate. It is a tricky one. I've got my high E string on red is still dodgy because I bashed it against something.
Yeah. The G string actually on the 61 Strat is like every time I turn it, I'm like.
Yeah, right.
So there's got to be.
Alvaro Beltran says, hi guys, greetings from Chile. I'm looking for a simple reverb. Do you recommend the JHS 3 series?
Haven't heard it yet.
No, haven't heard it. And we've got it and we need to give it a go.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's great. There's a bunch of really good ones out there. I really like the Boss.
What, the RV6?
Yeah, I think that's a great sounding reverb.
Yeah.
For a simple reverb.
If you want really, really simple, the J Rocket Boing.
There you go.
Boing is really good. as also is their Mr. Moto pedal, which also has a
Mr.
tremolo.
Moto, brilliant. Well, I'm sure that I'm sure it's great. Josh makes fantastic stuff. Actually, someone was asking, "Are we going to do a show again with Josh this year?" We'd love to. It just all depends on whether we're allowed out of our house. So, yeah, we'd love to at some point.
Yeah, COVID notwithstanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg
and Winston Bowman says, "Happy New Year's." Thank you, Winston. That's very kind, mate. Thank you.
Sorry, Dan, I talked over you. What was that name?
Sorry, Winston Bowman.
Winston Bowman. Thanks, Winston.
Happy New Year. Thank you, bud.
Greg Lewandowski, maybe. He says, "Hi guys, the sight of a pedal turned sideways, i.e. 390 degrees, on a pedal board drives me nuts. Does this bother anyone else?" Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I have to do it every now and again.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for example, jam pedals only do side jacks.
Yeah.
But if you put, for example, the Ripley Fall, which is, can't believe I don't have one here. Don't have one here. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, I do. Is a 3-button, 2-function switch. Let's say it's mounted that way on your pedal board. If you actually put it on the left-hand side of your pedal board, mounted like that, you get 2 benefits. One is, no longer is it a side mount jack thing, so you can put them top bottom, saves you a bit of space. 2, the switches are on the outside of the pedal board and therefore less prone to stepping on other stuff when you step on the switches, because you might need to turn one on or off. So in that sense, there can be a benefit to doing it. And given that Jam Pedal's artwork is always pretty wacky, it looks just as good that way up as it does that way.
Yeah. My biggest issue, if I ever do a board and I have to put a pedal on sideways, I just think I failed at life.
Yeah.
And I get all depressed.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes needs must. M. Piker says, "I'm looking for something that will let me practice with my pedal board and headphones at home and when I travel. Is the Iridium your pick? Thank you." Yes, the Iridium is great. Also worth checking out is the Simplifier, which is really good, and also the
New Neighbor.
The New Neighbor Iconoclast, and I've just bought 4 of them for the guys at the office. They're fantastic.
Yeah. So
really super, super simple, but gee, it sounds good.
So if you didn't get that, Iridium, New Neighbor Iconoclast, or the Simplifier, I don't know if that is the brand name or the product name.
I think it's the product name. I forget who makes it, but it's really very cool.
Yeah. Bob CC the Fourth, or indeed Bob Clive, says, "After your tomato tone videos, I'm hooked. Do you think the tomato tone would be of benefit with a Kemper setup?"
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the Kemper's great. It doesn't do pedals, so...
It does?
Well, if you model the pedal with it, it sort of does it, but not... It's like, Jake's got his pedal board plugged into his Kemper. The Kemper does the amps and the pedals does the pedals.
Right.
So it's... yeah, definitely. And especially if you're doing everything MIDI controlled, it works great.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried it. So the only thing I found with the Kemper is it doesn't react the same off like the volume knob. So where I'd be used to a pedal doing this when I turn it down into the amps that I know well, the Kemper doesn't react in the same way. So I guess it depends on your experience of all of that and how you like it to work. But in terms of the programmability, it's sounding great, offering loads of different options. Yeah, I would have thought it was be bang up into any amp, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Jesse Sand.
Sorry, mate. You go.
Jesse Sant, thanks for this great channel. Thank you, Jesse, for watching. Do either
Thanks.
of you know an amp that can get warm, detailed cleans with a Les Paul? And I think he's saying creamy overdrive with pedals. Attenuates well for home and preferably hand-wired. The hand-wired bit is where it gets difficult and expensive.
Yeah.
So Dan's going to say is matchless because it does all of those things brilliantly well.
It does. But what you're thinking of creamy overdrive might be something else. It's funny, I've been playing this Hook amp recently, and I'm really enjoying it. But the overdrive that it does, it's like that Dumbly thing. So it's so different. But depending on if I'm playing humbuckers, you could absolutely call that creamy.
Yeah.
But it's different than the matchless thing, and that's my benchmark for that sort of tone.
I think you probably look at the players that you like the most and the kind of sounds that they get that you would equate with some of the adjectives you've used there. Look at what they use, and your answer's probably there. You know, with amps, there are certain families. So the classic Marshall family, the classic Vox family, the classic various families of Fenders, etc., etc. And there will be boutique hand-wired versions of all of those via various brands. So, for example, you go up the chain from Vox, you get to Matchless, and maybe Morgan and the various brands that are sort of up the chain from that. Marshall, you go up, you find Friedman, you find Metropolis, you find Fender. Well, every boutique manufacturer out there, but Two Rock,
yeah, of course,
etc., etc.
All
the Dumble clones
different
out there.
feature set as well, and some of them, if you're like, if you want an Eagles Neil Young thing, and you end up, look at and it goes Lazy J, and he's got a fantastic attenuator built in, and so when you get to that level of amplifiers, a lot of them have on top of that core tone, they have a different feature set as well.
Yeah.
And what I was mentioning, the Hook amp, it's also got this really fantastic load box with a speaker simulator on the output. And it works great. When you get to that level of tech, quite often you will find those extra features that you're looking for are built into the amps.
Yeah. So to recommend one is really hard. Really hard because there's so many.
I remember 65 amps, and they had the attenuator on. Was it the studio or the session, or what was it called? The producer, and it had the best sounding like attenuator master volume on it. So that's when you get to that level of amplifiers, a lot of them will have those features.
Yeah.
Right, Music Therapy Laz says, here to 2021, let there be rock. Indeed, mate, we cannot wait to get out there and get noisy.
Simon Burgess, no, we've had Simon. Manuel Vasquez says, what are the best Cali 76 settings to get a chewier, clean sound from my Iridium? Perhaps I need to add another low-gain OD for touch sensitivity. Okay, so using an Iridium, using a Origin Cali 76 compressor, and he wants chewier, clean sounds.
Okay, I'll tell you the secret with the Cali 76, and it might sound silly. Start with all the knobs straight up. I think they've designed that thing to have its signature sound set like that. Really? And then start. Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of my favourite sounds I've got out of that thing is with all the knobs at 12 o'clock, and then start manipulating things from there. Because with the knobs set like that, it sounds like a compressor.
Yeah,
it sounds like that classic 1176 thing.
Yeah,
and then you can start, messing with other bits. But for me, it's a really great place to start with that pedal. Because it can be a bit confusing. The mix knob isn't mixing all the frequencies. The you've got your, because it's got all the proper ratio and knee and all that stuff on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, start with everything at 12. Go from there.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because Chewy, the best thing about the Cali 76 is it doesn't sound like an overt compressor when used in the way that I like. What I think it sounds best. And so
totally.
you might think it's not really doing anything, and then you turn it off and you go, "Oh wow."
Yeah,
And,
sure.
And Chewy is a tough one because do you want the front of the note or do you not want the front of the note, and how much of it do you want to sustain? So it's really do what Dan says, everything in the middle, and learn what the full extent of each one of those controls really does and how it feels. Okay. Happy New Year, says Matthew Bradbury, and
thanks,
has
Matt.
been insanely generous. Matthew, thank you so much. Oblong Thong says, hey guys, I love my TC Flashback mod setting on about 0.8 and a quarter mix. Would the Strymon Dig be the ultimate step up for my digital delay love?
I really like the Dig for that sort of clean, almost 80s rack style delay sounds. I think they sound really great. It is, if you like that sound, it's brilliant. And like the Strymon do the Brigadier as well, which is the analog one, and they've got these in the smaller format. They've got a few delay pedals that are sort of character led. I wouldn't call it the ultimate, because I think I need a bit more flexibility in the delay sounds. But if that's the sound that you like, it is exceptional.
Cool. I have no idea. I don't understand those sounds at all.
Yeah, it's more akin to you remember the old MXR rack nut delays and the
is it about
ST3000 and the sort of multi-tap sort of delays.
And it's not all about it being really clean, right? It's about having lower sample rates and stuff, so there's a bit of grit there. Is that what those sounds are about?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. I mean, it is. You can get it super pristine,
right?
But you can also, dirty it up and that stuff, and it's got that really specific modulation that those sorts of units have got. But yeah, it's you've got those separate delay lines, and you can have the different tempo ratios on each delay line.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really, I've got one. That was one of the pedals that I sent when we did the COVID frontline workers giveaway. I sent my Dig.
How does it compare to the Providence Chrono delay?
Yeah, so the Chrono delay is the Chrono delay is its own thing. It's not modelled.
Right. Okay.
Whereas Strymon is modelled.
Right.
And it does sound spectacular. Whereas the Providence Chrono is very much an original take of something in that vein.
Right.
I mean, far out. The Chrono is spectacular.
That was always my favourite sounding one, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael Whitney says, I've just ordered a new American Pro 2 Jazzmaster. I'm new to the Jazzmaster. Are there any pedals that work really well with these style of pickups? All of them. It depends how cliched you want to be. So if you want to kind of go with what Jazzmasters are known for, really, it's sort of two camps, isn't it? Surf is one, so really great reverb. And then sort of shoegazy alternative rock would be the other.
Yeah.
So some sort of fuzz, for sure. Big Muff springs to mind. And a really cool, massive, washy reverb and delay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah? And well, everything, who would we not think of as a Jazzmaster player? Michael Landau on his most recent record. Jazzmaster all over it. You know.
Wow.
So it's such a versatile guitar.
Yeah.
I don't know what guitar you're used to playing. If you come from a Strat, the transient attack of a Jazzmaster is totally different.
Well,
And it'll take you a minute to get used to that.
yeah. So on the EP that I'm doing, I found, so this is the Skipper from Grey Guitars, and I think this is on most tracks somewhere. That combination, those pickups, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Such a cool guitar. Enjoy. Brandon Smith, thank you for your generosity. Wolfpack Flyers, thank you for your generosity. Kyle McCandless says, what are your thoughts on using bass amps as guitar pedal platforms? I use a Sun 300T. Yes, you do. Infinite headroom and versatility. Would you add a bass amp to your studio? The bass amp that we would add would be a Fender Bassman.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is the most famous bass amp that became a guitar amp and never really looked back.
I remember Billy Corgan recorded with some bass amps, and it's totally doable.
I think there's been lots of famous examples of it down the years.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm very happy with my guitar amps. If there was something I wasn't getting from the guitar amp, then maybe. I guess, like you say, if you want ultimate clean headroom, if I'm remembering right, the Sun 300T is like is that the 12 6L6 or 8?
My only image of Sun amps is that they're massive.
8 6L6 300 watts or something insane like that, or 8 6550s or something mental like that. Apologies for the use of the word mental. Mark Lavinish, no, we've had him. It's the same question. American Deluxe Strat, he says, is what it was. For $850, noiseless vintage pickups, locking tuners, transparent red maple neck, 2-point tremolo. You know what? I did a gig. I've told this story before. I did a gig in with my old pub band in Don Airy's Village Pub years ago with that exact guitar. It was a gold one. It sounded fantastic through a Marshall 2061 and 212. It's all the things I don't like in Strats. Noiseless pickups, locking tuners, 2-point bridge, maple neck. One of the most fun gigs and best sounds I've ever had.
Yeah.
So
sometimes bits of wood come together just right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do to it. It's just a magic thing.
Yeah. Yes. $850 sounds like a really good deal. Jonathan Burton. I'm thinking of trying the big cinematic ambient stuff. I just got a Strymon Volante. It's stellar. For the reverb, do you think Night Sky, CXM 1978, Black Hole and Slow and others together? Thanks, guys. At this point in time, Dan and I are always going to say the CXM 78 over everything else. However, that you mentioned, the Black Hole and the Night Sky, they do stuff that the CXM won't, right, Dan?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've done a video with those three.
Yeah, so
go and have a look, and it'll give you a really good idea of the sounds that are available. There's something about the fidelity of the CXM that Mick and I just can't get away from. However, it doesn't take anything away from those other pedals, especially if you're thinking of doing atmospheric, visual, like soundtracky type things.
I really like the Night Sky for its UI.
Oh yeah, it's
that kind of made sense to me in terms of it was all available on the top panel, and of course it would be a lovely partner for your Volante. So feels like, and of course it's a great deal more cost effective than the CXM 1978, which is borderline crazy money.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go Night Sky anyway. We are getting there, are we, Dan?
I believe so.
Thanks for your thought-provoking topics and demos. Very much appreciated during this crazy time, says Jay Lyon. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Chile we had, didn't we? So I'll just do one more refresh and see if we've got through them all.
I believe so. I believe we're there.
Yes, we are there.
Brilliant.
We are there. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Really long one tonight. They're getting longer and longer. So I think what we're going to do in the future is narrow the topics.
I love that you think that's going to help.
This Q&A is only about this, and we're only taking questions on this today. Maybe. Not that we don't like being here for 3 hours, of course. Just like if you posted your question at 5 p.m. and it's now
of course
3 hours later, you might be a bit annoyed. But anyway, yeah, thanks for being with us.
Anyway, yes, Boris is on in a minute, and I'm uber keen to see what he has to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everyone, thank you for joining us.
He's going to say how safe schools are, but no one can go to work. No bands can play, but it's totally safe to go to school. Anyway, before we get too political, stay safe, everyone.
Yeah.
Be good boys and girls and others.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And we don't know what's going to be happening on Friday. Depends what happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll let you know. And doubtless we will see you on Monday.
Yes, there either will or won't be a show.
There we go. Yeah. Lots of love. Stay safe. And we'll see you soon.